If he get his mind right in time to be ready, and the triple kill picked up. Get caught off guard. No scope after no scope. He takes out both JP and after hold on to this hill and get his team the lead. But there goes the example. Angel doing it all by himself, and he goes on to the collection agency as he goes on a 10-1 start. Good shot. Hill comes through. JP 22-11. Booty double onto Mason and straight. That's going to be the
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to match day 3 of the Splitgate Pro Series Summer Season presented by Prime Gaming. I'm Frank. Back in the booth is Blue. Blue, how you doing today, man?
Doing pretty good. Had a nice little vacation last week, but I'm ready to hop back into the Splitgate action now.
Oh yeah, and today is another exciting day of matches, but we'll go through a little bit of housekeeping here at the top. So just to remind all of you guys at home when and where you can check out the matches and all of this action. Again, this is match day 3 here, so we've got 2 more weekends of competition with 3 match days, and then of course we go into those challengers qualifiers, into the challengers finals, where some of those teams are going to be vying for their spot in the Pro Series, followed up by the Pro Series season finals, where we'll get into that and that prizing breakdown. Then of course the relegation playoffs, where the bottom 2 teams will face off against the top 2 teams of the challengers finals for that spot in the Pro Series. So we kind of touched on that prizing a little bit, so we can jump into that format graphic where we can break down the entire Splitgate Pro Series for you guys. Again, each season here has $100,000 plus in cash and prizes with our 8 Pro Splitgate teams. Again, there are 7 match days here. All of these matches are going to be streamed live right here on this channel, so make sure you're following if you're not already. And then all of our matches here, best of 5, the teams have map picks and bans, and then the teams are ranked in those standings by their match record, so the win-loss, and their win percentage, so every map matters. And again, like we kind of touched on earlier, the top 6 ranked teams are going to qualify for the Pro Series Grand Finals. The bottom 2 teams will have to compete in relegation to stay alive in the Pro Series. And then for each of the regular season matches, if you win, you'll be walking away with $1,000, and a loss, you'll be going home with $250. And here is where all the big bucks are in the season finals. First place team is going to be walking away with $30,000. Second place, 15, third, 6, fourth, 4, and fifth and sixth, $2,500. So now that we've got that out of the way, Blue, I kind of want to talk a little bit about what we saw in the previous day of the Splitgate Pro Series. So one of the big things for me was T1 being able to bounce back against Elevate. We kind of saw them earlier struggle, or maybe were surprised by Space Station Gaming, and they were able to topple them early on, but they did have that 3-0 against Elevate, so probably a little bit of a confidence booster for them there. But now kind of the big surprise, or one of the teams that we kind of want to talk about a little bit more in depth was Luminosity. So even though they fell to Space Station Gaming in that Game 5, Luminosity was looking pretty strong. Blue, any comments on that Luminosity match we saw last week?
I think this matchup really just showed us how close the competition is right now inside of the SPS, considering the fact that LG was able to hold on and come so close to this upset as well here versus the members on SSG here. SSG able to bounce back towards that bitter end of the series and take control of it for themselves, but they really had to work for it, going nearly the full distance. So LG as well, really kind of the heartbreak team at the moment, because they had similar circumstances fall into their first game too, where they had those 2 overtime losses inside of King of the Hill by a single point, as their opponents were able to bring it back on holding on to that hill. So today for LG, it's really about locking in that full-on victory, getting themselves onto the board here, and trying to get themselves out of the lower end of the league right now, is where they currently sit for standings.
Yeah, and I think what was kind of a little bit surprising was, Space Station Gaming toppling the first place finishers from the previous season, and then being taken to a Game 5 by Luminosity, kind of an unassuming team. So going to be really interesting to follow both of these teams and their journey throughout today's matches and see who's still looking strong, if LG is able to kind of be on the come up. Again, they're starting 0-2, but I don't think they look like an 0-2 team.
Not at all.
But Space Station, again, looked really solid on that first match day, but then faced a bit of a challenge on match day 2, so we'll see how they respond to that. I think then looking on to that third match we saw during the last time was Xset. Again, they were the second place finisher in the standings, struggled a little bit in the grand finals of the last season, but they're just looking really solid. So they have a big match here today going up against T1. So that's going to be our #1 finisher from the last season and our #2 finisher being the final match of today. So I'm really excited to look towards that one. But another big moment from the previous day was that E United, both start to the season and their finish. So they are 2-0 and they are #1 in the standings, going 3-1 against the Pioneers and then sweeping Moist. So they were a roster that looked really solid, and I'm kind of excited to see more of their gameplay here today. But what would you say about that E United match we saw?
Yeah, I would pretty much agree with your assessment on it wholeheartedly here. They had to test Moist for the first time, as Moist had a pretty solid showing on day 1 against Elevate, if I recall correctly, but needed to be tested against other teams. It brought them back down to earth with a pretty considerable finish there. Now I think today E United has that same test very much being thrown at them, with the matchup being prepped against T1. I think that's going to be the biggest challenge this team has faced yet so far in this season, and they're going to need to come prepared, as they could very easily be put back down and start to be knocked out of their current first place position on the standings.
Yeah, and we'll kind of talk about E United a little bit more closer to their matchup, but their schedule only goes up from here. A lot of teams kind of have an ebb and flow to their matchups where, okay, hard week this week, a little bit of an easy week next week, but we'll look into their schedule a little bit later on, and it's an interesting one, definitely a good talking point. But here are your standings after the first 2 match days of competition. E United sitting nice at the top with that 86% game win percentage, and their match record, of course, 2-0. Then it is Xset, Space Station down the line, and then T1 struggling a little bit early on at 1-1, but we'll see how they fare here today. With that matchup against Xset, they have the potential of tying them in the standings. And then, this is where I think things are going to get really interesting and a little bit gritty, is that 5th through 8th place. Even based on these standings, I think it's unfair to say, oh, that's the 5th place team and that's the 8th place team. All of these teams look very solid, very strong, and like we had mentioned in the previous weeks, it was these minor 1 or 2 things, little adjustments they needed to make, And it was tough in those previous weeks because match day 1 and 2 were back-to-back. It was a super weekend, so it was a Saturday, Sunday. You didn't have much time to adjust and prepare for that next day of matches, but today they've had that full week to kind of come into this one and potentially adjust. So here are your matches for today. Kind of mentioned a couple of these ones. Elevate versus Space Station. Space Station looking strong, expecting them to continue that dominance. Pioneer's going to be going up against Moist, and this is probably another one of those neck and neck ones. Comes down to who is performing on the day. And then Luminosity versus E United. We mentioned Luminosity taking Space Station Gaming to a Game 5 in the previous day of competition. So they, even though they're 0-2, they're not a team you can take lightly at all. E United starting very strong, 2-0, so looking forward to that matchup. And then, of course, the heavy hitters as the last match of the day, T1 going up against Xset. Any of these jump out at you, Blue, that you want to highlight before we get into today's first match?
We talked about it a little bit earlier, but definitely the E United versus LG matchup here. LG and E United are looking to kind of lock things in and continue to prove themselves here in the league. LG's had a really rough go of it the first 2 play days, so they're looking to bounce back. And E United has already proven themselves against some of the teams that haven't had the greatest start so far this season, but they want to prove themselves against a team that they know can fight, they know can go the full distance, and this matchup versus LG is going to be an excellent chance to prove that if they can lock in their 3-0 for the season so far.
Yeah, and I think, too, E United, just looking at their schedule, starting out 3-0 is pretty pivotal just in their standings alone, because they're going up against the heavy hitters, right? They still have T1 on the schedule, they still have Xset on the schedule, and they still have Space Station Gaming on the schedule. So the road is not over for E United, despite their really good start. It's got to be a good confidence boost for them, but yeah, there's still plenty of mountain to climb for them. But talking a little bit about our first matchup here of the day, again, it's going to be Elevate versus Space Station Gaming, and here is your map rotation for that series. So King of the Hill on Oasis, going to be our first map, and I think we haven't seen Oasis yet.
Yeah.
So these pro players continue to mix things up, change things up, and pick maps we haven't seen yet, so that'll be exciting to watch. Map 2 on Abyss, map number 3, Domination, going to be on Lava Well. King of the Hill on Impact is our map 4, and then if we need the Game 5, we'll go to TDM on Carmen Station. So I'm excited to see how this King of the Hill on Oasis plays out, simply because we haven't seen this map played yet.
Yeah, I mean, Oasis is a bit of a battleground, to be completely honest with you there. Even just spawning, there's a very good possibility that you're going to end up getting yourself picked off because of how just open the layout of this map tends to be. A lot of tunnels and smaller rooms underground that teams can use to maneuver around as well on either side of the map, and those 2 center towers. But trying to move larger distances pretty much has to be done via a portal because all the landmarks of this map are so far apart, and it's pretty much impossible to sneak across it through normal movement means.
Yeah, Oasis definitely comes down to your ability to traverse the map via portals, or else, walking across that barren desert, you're kind of a sitting duck. So that is not the optimal route. So we'll have to see how this one plays out between these 2 teams. I think looking at Space Station, they're kind of established. I'm expecting them to come out pretty dominant, but what I'm really looking for is Elevate to have made those small adjustments that we kind of talked about in the previous weeks, and they weren't like major things. We saw them go on little streaks, being able to break that hill, but the main thing they weren't able to do was then just capitalize on that break and rack up the time. So I think if they're able to make that adjustment, maybe they'll be able to surprise Space Station Gaming here a little bit.
Yeah, they are really going to have to bring it to the table, considering that Oasis is our first map. We have seen them in certain matchups get kind of locked down here, and Oasis is a map where if they're not prepared for what SSG is going to bring to the table, that can absolutely happen. They're going to have to bring their best effort, best foot forward immediately on game 1 here. Otherwise, we could end up in a situation where SSG indeed is going to be the dominant team, and I guess we'll have to find out here as it looks like we're about to get started with our first map.
Yep, about to get started, but Elevate definitely having a tough early time. They're facing off the early strong teams, so it will only improve them, right? So looking at the back half of this season, despite results, they have plenty of notes to take and things to improve on. So here we go, jumping into map number 1 on Oasis.
Both teams rushing the power weapons at the start here because of how important they can be to controlling the map, controlling the rotates of your opponents, as well here. First kills are going to come onto the board, primarily in the favor of SSG. They take that initial hill control for themselves too, but it's going to be so difficult, as we talked about before, to be able to keep consistent presence on these hills. You can see it now that we are in game, just how open the layout tends to be on this map, as Chenzo at the moment doing a good job of hunting down the more freshly spawned members of Elevate and ensuring that they're not able to put any problems in the face of the members members of the team holding on to the hill.
Yeah, Chenzo, one of the most dominant slayers in the league right now, leading in KDA. So we saw some of his portal play, which was impressive on a mechanical level, but he's got the slaying power to back it up. And starting off strong here today with 5 kills and finally falling to Darth to give him his second death.
Fortunate for Chenzo there is he did get the no-scope off with the sniper, but just not close enough to the head, so he is going to get traded out from it. Away from that, both teams sit at pretty much a standstill right now as Elevate has taken control of the next hill, but unfortunately only Daybreak on top of it. So Chenzo's going to roll right in, fresh off spawn, take it away, deny some of these portal rotates from the currently controlled Elevate tower on the other side of the map too. So SSG still with a confident grasp on things as they inch up to their first 50 seconds on hill.
Yeah, and this is definitely exemplifying that this is one of those maps that relies so heavily on control, it becomes very snowbally. So with SSG being able to hold down this hill, you see it kind of through those player outlines that they're able to control those spawns and really keep Elevate at bay as they defend this hill.
See Chenzo kind of taking point, as we talked about earlier, on hunting some of these players down, and has been able to be super successful on this, only actually needing to round back for 1 overall kill against Strafe. Looks like Cagels was able to take care of most of the more recent ones, and despite the fact that yes, he does get traded out, you've got Chenzo pretty fresh, so he's going to be able to rotate in, take up that new position, and bleed out the last few seconds on it as the hill's getting ready to rotate for the second time.
We'll have to see how players move towards this new hill and whether Elevate can use this as an opportunity to break that strong space station setup they had on that earlier rotation. And 3 players down, 4 space station might just give Elevate some breathing room to start to approach this hill.
SSG's a little bit slow to get themselves off of that center lower hill that we had back on our second minute of the game, so that left a window open for Elevate to take it pretty much freely for themselves here, and they've been able to thrive upon it so far, controlling most, if not the entirety of the 30 seconds that have transpired, but finally SSG's going to be able to flip it, take it back to neutral for a little bit longer, and oh no, Darth can't even keep up with the rotates coming in from Chenzo. He's just too quick as he flanks him from the side and finally gets the rest of Elevate off of this point, giving it right back over to SSG, as well as locking in their lead again for the foreseeable future.
And Darth was doing a really good job of holding that high ground, kind of slowing Space Station down, but when you have such a mechanically advanced player like Chenzo on the approach, sometimes it's just a matter of time before you get taken out. But I do like the approach that Darth from Elevate had there, just, again, need to follow up with that hill time to start to work themselves back into this game.
Chenzo following Darth just a little bit too closely as he gets knocked out by the Rockets. Vision's also going to drop the sniper onto the ground, still sitting on the ground, however, so not going to be able to see a member of SSG successfully steal that away just yet, but that won't stop them from picking up kills. Beautifully done by Darth here. As we go back onto his POV, he's able to get the kind of fadeaway rocket shot, hopping through the portal, shooting it back, and I think through his opponent's portal as well to line up the triple kill for himself right there, shutting down the large majority of SSG, but unfortunately not able to stop their lead as that continues to crawl forward, now past the 100-point marker.
Yeah, and this is another one of those things that Elevate maybe just struggling with a little bit here. You see them picking it up in the slaying department as we have Darth and Strafe and even Daybreak putting up some of those numbers, but the hill time just hasn't followed. So we have our slayers with Darth and Strafe putting up some big kills, but now it's just on Daybreak and Sucky to really get in those OBJ points.
This was the big issue that we were talking about in the pregame when we brought up the fact that we were heading here to Oasis was, is Elevate going to be able to keep up with those rotates? Are they going to be able to kind of outwit the game state play from Chenzo and the rest of SSG? And so far, unfortunately, the answer has been a resounding no at 122 to 39. Even the nice individual plays, as you were just mentioning from Elevate, that are seeming to make impact are not forcing SSG off of the hill for long enough. It's just seconds being bled together here for the members of Elevate. Meanwhile, SSG are easily stacking together full minutes on these hills.
Yeah. Space Station really has just had to rely on the fundamentals here, right? They haven't had to do anything too crazy. They're just being in good positions, relying on their teamwork and just really racking up the hill time. And Elevate just hasn't been able to find that opening to start to rally back here in this matchup because Space Station has just had such solid fundamentals here on Oasis.
Good follow through there from Chenzo, catching the portal route, but not going to be able to so easily lock down the kill. Has to hop through 3 different portals, in fact, to get that one done. Nicely played by Chenzo there, as another member of his team eventually locks down that kill that he was so desperately searching for. An easy kill is found for him eventually, as he's able to knock out Darth and limit the options for Elevate once more. SSG now a little over halfway past their objective marker point here. Need to hit 250 to win the game, and at 168, they're already getting fairly close towards it. In the meanwhile, Elevate is just now inching up on 50 points. teammates here. So we're about halfway through this next hill, but a nice move will be made there by K-Jules, hopping out of the hot zone, back over into the sniper's nest where he picks up that one final kill, as well as an additional one at one of the towers before finally going down now that his teammates have been able to take up his mantle here.
I have to bring up Woodham right now, sitting at the highest objective time for his team and also the highest kills. He's been kind of quiet, not too flashy, but obviously in the stats department has been putting in the work and making this tough for Elevate to work their way back into it, because not only do you have someone sitting on the hill amassing all those points, but also you can't kill them. So that's part of why Space Station Gaming has been so successful here on this first map.
A large part of how he's able to find such successful gameplay is in part because he generally tends to be the player to go for power weapon control if he's available to do so. It's going to be a bit of a two-man job on this map, though, as Chenzo, as you can see, prioritizing the sniper pickup. Unfortunately, not going to be able to keep it for very long. He gets outwitted as there's like 2 to 3 different players from Elevate trying to shoot at him from all these different points of the map, so he's just not able to sustain himself. Woodham also goes down as we are seeing Elevate lock in a bit of a consistent hold here on the lower middle hill, the most consistent run we've seen from them in some time, but so far on this specific hill, it's only led to about 20 or 30 points gained here so far, so I want to make sure they lock in the rest of these 15 seconds as well to really start battling back and feeling a chance to get back into this map still.
Yeah, and a really good play, too, from Elevate. We saw, SSG attempt to pick up that sniper. He was taken down. Woodham then had the rockets also taken down. So a good job of getting those power weapons dropped on the map out of the hands of Space Station. But, just will it translate into closing the gap here? Unfortunately, I think Space Station just has such of a nice cushion and a nice lead that it's really going to be tough for Elevate to find their way back into this one.
Trying to shield this portal wall a little bit here, as you can see multiple members of SSG trying to deny those rotates from being opened up by Elevate, but it won't really play out too well into their favor. The members of Elevate still it appears through, but despite that, SSG still winning most of the big team fights here as they get a full knockout on the entirety of Elevate's roster there. 4 kills in a row, so they're going to be locking in quite a few points from this sequence here, as we've got about 20 seconds remaining on this hill. Assuming there's no interruptions from Elevate, that's going to put SSG within just about 10 seconds reach of closing down the first map, so more than likely we would expect them to be able to take that full control here.
Yeah, just a really solid start here from Space Station Gaming. I think this is what kind of separates them, puts them at the top or towards the top of that standings leaderboard, is just how fundamentally sound and how clean their gameplay is. Again, nothing too flashy or too crazy on display here that's giving them this huge lead, but just how solid they are as a team is making all the difference.
New Hill is up, and Elevate is stemming the tide for a little bit here, but again, keep in mind, they can only allow 15 seconds total to now bleed to their opponents here. Elevate has to throw pretty much everything they have at this hill, and that may be what seals the deal for them. Darth, though, holds on for just a little bit longer with that very important pickup to deny the presence on the hill from SSG. Still was able to get it 4 out of the 15 seconds, and now we're seeing K-Jules try to finish it off here. 7 seconds remain, and SSG will lock in the victory. Elevate still about 150 seconds away from being able to bring this back under their own control. It's just too little too late, unfortunately, it seems, from the Elevate camp, and while they are continuing to stem the tide back and hold away members of SSG, it's only little bits and pieces, and ultimately, SSG will still be able to straggle their way up to 250 points and lock in the first map of the day.
Yeah, I think, though, despite the kind of tough loss, Elevate, a good showing at the end, still trying to battle even for that last hill. A good sign of their mental state, not necessarily being too hard on themselves or giving out early. So hopefully at least they can start to battle back in our second TDM. But as it stands, just another really solid showing out of Space Station Gaming.
That's what we've come to expect, so no surprises there, especially again with Woodham topping things out, being the priority pickup for those power weapons, able to negotiate himself pretty well there, going 45 and 18 over the course of this game. Even the lower end of things, Chenzo having himself a fantastic run there at 37 and 16, so no stragglers inside of the fragging department. SSG just on point for this first map.
And I think the big thing that I think, Space Station, what makes them so scary as a roster is you have players like Woodham getting 45 kills and then 137 points of objective time. So they kind of, across the board, that was the trend, right? So you have people who are not only slaying, but then working on that objective. So they're able to flex all roles so well it really makes him scary and a tough opponent to go up against.
Big thing too with Chenzo is you might be expecting him to have a little bit more frag impact, specifically because of the role he was taking of trying to like fend off people rotating in. He didn't really need him to do that for most of the game from what I was watching on his POV. His teammates were taking care of that just on the point itself, so that may explain why his kill share just a little bit lower, because his job was kind of already fulfilled by his teammates by default.
Yeah, just everyone kind of sharing that equally. So no one standout player, it's just, hey, everyone had really solid kills and really solid objective time.
Looks like we're heading into our second map now, ladies and gentlemen, so let's see if Elevate can rebound. And to start things off, they have knocking out 2 different members of the SSG rosters. We get into our TDM matchup, which is going to go back to Abyss for this one. A map we've seen played quite a bit. Normally tends to be our first map in the rotation for King of the Hill, but it seems our players want to play it a bit more aggressively this time as they take it to TDM. And currently SSG now holding on to the lead after rebounding from that initial 2-kill loss. They have not dropped one since then and have picked up 5, now 6 additional kills in their favor, with K-Jules getting that very nice one you just caught on screen.
Yeah, so what started off as a really good initial break from Elevate, I think one of the key differences is Darth, we saw him be in control of that bat, and that can be so impactful, especially on this map and in TDM, but he had to run scared, basically wasn't able to find an angle to be a threat and was just trying to stay alive and eventually falling to the SSG roster. And here we see Rocket's Woodham going on another spree with a great double kill, and he has the bat as well, so this man might start to terrorize the map just a bit.
Yep, the rockets are over, but the bat has arrived, and we can see Woodham hugging his portals quite heavily to try and surprise by jumping out of them. Is able to get that second one as well. Might not have looked like it, but negotiates himself the double kill as the instant trade is found from the member of the opposing team. He was low enough to guarantee that at least, but it doesn't make up a big difference in the kill department just yet. SSG still leading here by a factor of 6 as Dar's starting to bring it back just a tad. Sucky helping out with that as well. Elevate might still be in this fight just a tad here as SSG struggling now to pick up consistent kills, and Elevate are trading them out a lot more efficiently.
Yeah, Elevate starting to pick up the slack here, and TDMs can really be that great equalizer between teams. So if Elevate's able to snag a win here, that would be huge for them in potentially taking this series.
Darth getting a little bit shuffled there as he tries to go for the bat control, ends up losing himself in the process of trying to portal around there and gets outwitted by one of his opponents to be taken down there. So SSG continue to resume their lead, really looking to lock it in a bit more consistently as it's basically been stalemated here for the past 2 minutes now. Elevate constantly sitting behind with about an 8 or 9 kill disadvantage, and finally starting to see that grow a little bit more so for SSG. However, the kills overall, at least in the current moment, are staying fairly even. Woodham being brought down as one of only 2 members remaining here for the team. It's just going to go running for a second. Actually doesn't want to take any heavy risks here. Just wants to wait for his teammates to get back up, so there's more distractions on the field, which allows him to do things like this as he sneaks in. Finally gets credit for that kill against Strafe as well, but will be taken out, of course, by Darth.
Yeah, Woodham is a player for Space Station who leads the entire squad in their TDM kill death. So he's sitting at a 1.71 and definitely reflecting that here as he is leading in the kills department for Space Station. Part of that reason why Space Station has such a nice lead right now.
Darth continuing to move around and hunt for targets, and he'll find one. Woodham way across the mid-bridge, gets sniped out with a nice 4-shot coming in from Darth. Try to see if he can jump up near that bridge and get ready for the power weapon spawn, as well as just wait for the rotates to work their way in. Unfortunately, he's going to be outwitted in the process here. Chenzo and Woodham making a big play right now to try and take this map control away from the members of Elevate, and they'll succeed in doing so. Pick up the bat along with it. Chenzo will escape through a back portal he had preserved, and now try to jump in a little bit too early on these swings, so it's looking like Daybreak is going to be able to get away, but he doesn't success. Never mind, he does actually end up taking him down as he routes back over a few seconds later.
Chenzo with the 3 strikes, and you're out there. 3 swings missed, buddy. You deserve to get punished for that one, but I'm sure we'll see you later with the bat again. But this gives an opportunity to Sucky now with that bat to start to mount this comeback. Again, Elevate only down 10 kills, and with the extended TDM time playing to 60, there's still an opportunity for Elevate to work their way back into this one.
Gonna have to really work it at this point, though, with SSG inching towards 50. This is where teams tend to play a little bit more passively as they know the game is coming to a closing point here, so that may limit the aggressive capabilities of Elevate to some degree. Look at this run into, waiting for the bat lineup, and he's gonna get it, but only can lock down a single target right now as the second one escapes through a portal. And that'll be the end of the run overall as well, as it looks like Darth able to knock out Chenzo there, preventing the additional run with the bat.
I'm always impressed with Chenzo's just map knowledge. You saw it again with the portaling, knowing exactly where he's going to want to aim, almost pre-firing his portals to a sense to traverse the map so quickly, allowing for that bat kill. So well played again to Chenzo, but Elevate only down 9 now as the pace slows down, nearing that 60-point mark. So we'll see if Elevate can find a few openings. I believe Strafe does have a bat as well, so it could be a bit of a difference maker here coming up.
Definitely got to agree with you on that point from Chenzo. Easily one of the smoothest portal players we have seen so far in the season of the SPS. Just his capability to move so quickly, like you said, looking like he pretty much has these points memorized. He's like pre-firing them almost. It's really a true sight to see as SSG now takes back control over the situation. 3 members of Elevate wiped off the board. Only Sucky left alive from that recent flurry of kills here, and even he's now going to fall to Wootum as SSG just sit 4 kills away from locking this in. Elevate has flatlined on their own kill department here. It's locked in at 45, still 15 away from a victory of their own, and SSG is continuing to hunt down members of the Elevate squad. There's 3 more. 1 remains, and only 1 kill is needed for SSG to take control of a second map. More than likely going to look at them doing it here, as they do indeed lock in a 2-0 for themselves. Just 1 more map to go.
Really liking what I'm seeing out of Space Station Gaming here today. I think one of their kind of underrated skills is their, I don't know what to call it, like threat neutralization. So while Elevate had control of some of those power weapons, like that bat, they were able to take down that player, identify him so quickly that it was no longer a threat, and that just swung all of that momentum in their favor to close out that series. So Space Station continuing to impress here on match day 3.
We can see once again, no real laggers or players lagging behind is what I'm about to say for the members of SSG here. As we see Wootum topping out the charts again at a fairly impressive as well, 32-9. We saw him having quite the run inside of it. Meanwhile, for the side on Elevates, once again the same thing, fairly even spread of kills overall, but you can tell how SSG was able to dominate inside of this matchup.
Yeah, and I think just Space Station looking so solid today makes me, a little worried for Elevate on a domination, because that is one of the most teamwork demanding game types here in the SPS, and Elevate, while they've made some of those adjustments we've talked about, I think Space Station has just done such a good job today of outpacing them towards these objectives, but we'll have to see if they're able to take a map number 3 domination here.
All right, getting ourselves into it now. We'll take a look and see, like you said, if SSG can lock it in, or if Elevate is going to be able to find any sort of rebound for themselves. Unfortunately, off of the first few seconds, not looking so much like it. SSG already able to negotiate a triple cap for themselves inside of the first 30 seconds of play. Elevate has got a home point back under their own control as they've taken A, but once again has a long road to recover from here. However, SSG could have ended up overextending and trying to get that triple cap, so the window may still be open here for Elevate to find some control, and indeed they will, as the 2 cap is locked in, but on the side points. So it's going to be a delicate one, as you can already see A being back capped by the members of SSG.
Yeah, SSG just such a good job on those rotations, but still a lot of these hills being jockeyed for currently as we hop on board here with K-Jules, who is taken down as Darth does have possession of that bat, but kills being exchanged, and Sea-Hill still not secured as both of these teams fight for map control.
SSG has the lock-in on B, and that's the important one, especially for Lava Well, due to the due to the position that it plays into. Very difficult to insert yourself in there, assuming the defenders have some sort of overwatch on top of it, because it is just a tiny little box, so very easy for yourself to get pinched out of there if you try to approach it solo. Almost a full team affair needs to be committed to that, and we can see how Elevator's struggling with that difficulty right now. Able to backcap both of the side points, it seems, once again for themselves, but will they be able to lock them in? So far, only controlling A. SSG has had that consistent lock on B the entire time, but C is lost as well. So this will be a nice little boost for Elevate as they look to get back into things.
Yeah, nice job here of Elevate bouncing back from the triple caps, but I think Space Station Gaming very content in just securing those triple caps for brief moments of time to kind of jettison themselves ahead in the objective points department, and then they are just running it from there, and then they'll recap when they need to. So while Elevate maintains control of this Sea-Hill, they are still quite a ways behind in the points department, but like we've seen before, in domination, all you need to hold is that triple cap for a decent amount of time to work your way back into any of these matches.
So SSG doing exactly that right now as they lock themselves in a little past the 200-point marker. We can see for Chenzo mainly trying to avoid his opponents and wait for reinforcements to arrive. I think they finally did with K-Jules coming into his system. However, still low HP, still a bit exposed there in the fight versus Darth. So he'll be taken down by him, and that'll prop for not only Darth, but I believe another member of Elevate to try and route back in and take this point away. It's not going to work out too well as the focus for the members of Elevate shifts back to A. They'll take that for themselves, and just as quickly have to fight to defend it too. Daybreak and Sucky lucky to fend off the pressure for both Chenzo and Woodham with Casuals down as well. That's the entire team of SSG wiped off the map for a few seconds here. A lot of free control going over to the side of Elevate, and they're going to use it as they lock in their first triple cap.
Yeah, and this is what Elevate needed to do both earlier in the season and in today's match day, is capitalize on those plays that they are making. So some great sniper shots from Daybreak going to open up this triple cap, and the rally continues here as Elevate now just down about 50 points. So great work, great capitalization on the part of Elevate there in that prior play.
SSG, though, these quick rebounds continue to be incredibly impressive as this team always seems to center themselves back into a leading position so quickly after falling behind, and they've done exactly that here. Yes, they have allowed for Elevate to close the overall lead gap by a bit, but look at it now. Already seeing SSG take back a 2 cap, which has been diminished. However, they have the advantage still, having the only home point captured for themselves. That will now change as Elevate takes back C for themselves, but at the very same time, SSG has relocked in B. However, they've also lost their home points. Elevate, once again, doing a much better job of keeping up the fight. While they haven't made the ultimate difference to take the lead away just yet, they are holding on here and going for a big grapple for B, it looks like now, as they send 2 to 3 players over there, but SSG reads into it and shuts down the entire roster. This is going to be a dangerous amount of trip cap time being gifted over to SSG now.
Yeah, I think that's what continues to impress me with Space Station is just their ability to identify what they need to do and then do exactly that. So while Elevate had a nice little streak, the answer back with a trip cap and holding it for that amount of time is just so impressive.
Snipes for Vision doesn't really work out too well, and lose another teammate trying to reassert control here over by C, so losing that opens up B along with the 2 dead players. The problem for Darth, though, is he's lost literally every other teammate, so he's just going to try and negotiate himself around the map to line up a bat swing. He will be able to do it, but Woodham immediately trades him back out. That bat's still in play and still causing problems for SSG, as you can see here. Casuals trying to get some damage done with the sniper at a bit of a range, but can't line it up, unfortunately, because of the presence of that bat. Regardless, though, SSG has leashed together the 2 cap, and they've got the members of Elevate under control as they sit just about 200 points or so away from locking in the victory now.
A really nice play from Casuals there, just in taking all of Elevate's attention and then him trying to stay alive and allow his teammates to get back in the fight, allowed them there to maintain at least 2 of those hills through that Elevate hill break. So nice heads-up play from Casuals, and man, SSG with another brief triple cap just going to extend that lead even more.
We're going to immediately see A get prioritized here by the members of Elevate, and they should have been able to take it, but no, got wiped off again. It looked like it was only Daybreak and maybe one other player from Elevate trying to hold on to that, so they lose it, and it really seems like SSG has locked into the kind of game plan for Elevate, what their general tendencies will be based on how the caps go. You could see them just running circles around the Elevate roster at this point. The trip cap has been locked in for nearly 30 seconds here, and they are really just racing themselves towards the end game point at this point.
Yeah, and I think we've really seen the domination meta start to shift as teams start to figure out what they need to do. Early on in that launch season, it was like, oh, there's a hill, I need to stand in the hill to defend it. But what we're seeing out of Space Station here now is securing that hill and then roaming the map from this high ground position, controlling power weapons to extend that time. So it's more of securing those hills and then being able to have that slaying power to keep them versus being in the hill to hold them.
A few situations here we're still seeing a bit of over-aggression from SSG, and this takes us to the scenarios where Elevate has been able to bounce back a little bit, including that one triple cap that happened earlier in the match, but later on now it does not seem like they've been making those same mistakes, and SSG really locking themselves in to make sure they deny any and all play capability coming out from the Elevate roster, such as that play right there from Strafe, which is going to be supported by Daybreak, but just as quickly will also get denied due to the double sniper kill that came out from Visions. Great stuff. 2 points already locked in again from SSG as they grapple back control of the situation with about 30 points to go. I think it's fairly safe to say that we're going to be seeing an SSG 3-0 here to start off the day on the SPS.
And, I mean, to be fair, that's kind of what we expect from a team that was able to topple T1 on day 1 and then also have a great day 2. So Space Station just looking like one of the top teams in the SPS right now. I think Elevate did a fairly decent job of cleaning up some of those mistakes. We've seen them, okay, so they were getting the breaks in day 1, they could break the hill, but there was no objective time follow-up. Today, at least we saw some of that objective time follow-up. It's just unfortunate that they had to go up against one of the top teams in the league when that started to come together from them.
I think this showed us more of the strength of SSG rather than any of the negatives from Elevate here today. Elevate doing their best to come up against it, but ultimately SSG just too smooth of a team, especially when they are put into a bad situation like we were talking about in the middle of that final map here. They are just so quick to get themselves back on their feet. Then unfortunately Elevate was just not able to keep up pace today, unfortunately. So a solid 3-0 and a very well-deserved 3-0 goes on the board for Space Station Gaming.
Yeah, and I think Space Station continues to be a roster where we're not seeing very many weak links. There's no one player who's behind in kills or objective time. They're all distributing that so evenly that then it becomes very scary for a team that you're looking, forward to. Oh, we got to play Space Station next week. It's like, well, what do we do? We have to just play perfect. Is really
Pretty
what it
much,
comes
yeah.
down to. That's the ask. If you want to beat Space Station Gaming, you're going to have to play more perfect than perfect because they're doing it so well right now. Taking a look at some of these clips, I think one of the things that impressed me, again, Chenzo's portaling always on point. K-Jules, such an X-Factor player. You'll never really, I mean, he does have his moments where he pops off, but he's such a great fill and flex player, really doing exactly what his team needs from him to extend these leads, and Woodham with the power weapon control, always on point with the rockets, with the bat. They are just such a solid roster.
Bit more obvious, the contributions from Wootum. Obviously, he's got the big highlight plays with the rocket launcher and everything, but you mentioned it back on map number 1 as well. We saw kind of a quieter contribution from him, topping out the scoreboard by far, but never really going to his POV and seeing him go crazy, just kind of quietly staying there, always finding those consistent kills and always keeping SSG in front.
Yeah, I think that might be kind of the evolution of some of the meta we've seen too, where in previous seasons it was so solo player pop-off reliant, whereas now we're seeing that teamwork aspect. Everyone in the Splitgate Pro Series right now, all 8 of these pro teams, they would, mop the floor with me, obviously, but they've all closed the skill gap within themselves as well. So now it comes down to the teamwork and decision-making, and I think that's really on display here.
Absolutely agree, 100%.
So that was our first match of the day. And, well done to Space Station Gaming, but I do think Elevate against some of these other teams is going to surprise us. Definitely don't take your eyes off of them, but we're going to throw it to a brief commercial break, and then we'll be back with Moist Esports going up against the Pioneers. All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Splitgate Pro Series presented by Prime Gaming. We just saw a pretty quick 3-0 from Space Station, but in the meantime, before we get into our next match, we want to give you guys watching here today a little chance to win some Astro Gaming products. So, to win the Astro headset with the custom SPS speaker tags, all you need to do is type !Astro in the chat to enter, and you'll be notified if you're one of the lucky winners. So good luck to all of you in chat trying to win that Fire headset. But we got to talk about the next matchup, because this one is an interesting one for a few reasons. I think one, like both of these teams being kind of middle of the pack. I think the Pioneers being 0-2 is a little disingenuous. They're definitely not an 0-2 team.
Yeah.
So, you know, we'll have to see how they play, but one of the players that I wanted to highlight here from the Moist Esports roster is Hunnet. So Hunnet has been kind of tearing things up in the SPS season so far, putting up some pretty banger stats. Just, you know, 0.01 from being a 2.0 KDA is impressive enough alone, but his team deathmatch KD is above that 2.0 marker. His average kills plus assists total is at 34, and still managing, you know, while doing all that, still managing to throw up 98 points of objective time is nothing short of impressive.
We brought him up on our first day of play as well about how he is kind of known as this very aggressive fragger, and I think he's continued to maintain that role even with the season where I wasn't here, unfortunately. But like I've continued to see that same type of play style now that I'm back again and watching him once more. Just one of the most fearless players inside of the SPS, just constantly getting in the face of his opponents, not caring if he ends up going down. He wants the fight, and it shows very truly in his stats that that's very much his play style.
And I think too, one of the things that, you know, these teams need to start to account for, or the adjustments we might see being made, is okay, if you have a reliable slayer like Hunnet, then you start to formulate your teamwork and your strategies around it. So I know in the previous weeks when Endo was here, he would talk about how, you know, these really big hot streaks you see out of players are unsustainable. The you know, collection agencies and up, those sorts of stats, eventually, you know, you're going to get slayed, taken out. But if you have a player like Hunnet who's able to put up those stats consistently, then you start to formulate some of those strategies around him. And I think if Moist can kind of do that and start to execute on that, they'll be definitely a team to be feared, kind of like you mentioned. So taking a look at the map rotations here in this second match of the day, looks like we'll go to King of the Hill on Impact. Then on TDM, we're going to head to Olympus. Domination on Atlantis. A King of the Hill on Oasis again cropping up here. And then a TDM on Carmen Station if needed. So pretty good map rotation. And I mean, between these two teams, I think they're pretty evenly matched. So it's kind of tough to say if one team's going to come out ahead based on this map rotation here.
I think we got a really fun rotation as well here, especially for maps 2 and 3 there. TDM on Olympus is going to be an absolute show, and then Domination on Atlantis, that's going to cause so many just crazy portal rotations. And the fact that these two teams as well are fairly like frag heavy in my opinion, that they're very much you know, we're seeing it right here. They want to get right in your face. Both of them generally tend to. I think that we're in for a real treat on maps 2 and 3 of this one. But let's focus up on the first one. Obviously, we got King of the Hill going. Moist taking a large majority of kills out of that first gunfight there, and they're going to flood onto the center hill and take these first 15 seconds relatively uncontested.
Yeah, a full squad wipe off the rip for Moist Esports is going to be a great start. And like you mentioned, yeah, slay heavy in both, I mean, the entire Moist roster, right? Really reliably aggressive, but able to follow up on it as well. Not a lot of, you know, rush ins without a payoff of some sort. So Hunnet off to a good start. Same with Chloe, and we'll have to see if they continue this streak as the bat play is going to come through from Cyber.
Now that more aggressive, straightforward play coming out from Moist did work to be a slight deficit to them in their more recent matchups, so we're going to have to see if KCP is going to be able to potentially work their way around that and abuse it to any extent here, or if they're also potentially going to fall into that same pitfall, just giving us a hyper-aggressive game where both teams are really just playing directly into each other's own type of fight-taking capabilities here. Either way, though, KCP picking up quite a few kills here over the last few seconds. They're going to be able to flip the hill in their favor because of that here. A close game at the moment at 33-17, with the Pioneers probably just a few seconds away from being able to close the gap. We'll see as Moist tries to run their way back in, attempt to get on the hill themselves, but they need to find that insertion point. It's not so easy to lock down. Toby with a great portal angle there as he gets himself out of the hot zone, trying to jump back into it now as well, as his teammates have managed to fend off the rest of the offenders.
Yeah, just now realizing this game or series will be a tale of two Tobys, so we'll call one Toby with the Y for KCP, and of course Toby with the IE for Moist. But Pioneers have been doing a great job here, again on the back of Toby with the Y, with that bat, with the hill control, now finding themselves in the lead. 10 seconds left on the hill, so Moist going to be able to get a little bit of scrap time, but that rotation going to come through and settle the score on this next hill.
Gonna make Toby go back to his full name of Toby Repellent over on Pioneers is probably what I'll end up calling him as, just to alleviate things a little bit. But Moist's Toby is going to be able to pick up that more recent kill here, and we'll see Klo, his teammate, try to walk in on the back end of it, an attempt from Zyber to try and flank him out, but it won't work out, and that hands over the sniper into Klo's hands as well here. Great reinsertion from Moist. They're going to be able to take away the hill from the members of KCP just as they were about to lose the lead as well, so great timing on this one, be able to leash back control over this matchup. However, here comes KCP to steal it back from them just as quickly.
Wow, great double kill there out of Hunnit. Again, nice little rotation, but Toby going to be aggressing on this hill as the Pioneers lock it down, and it really seems like that Moist aggressive playstyle is kind of akin to like going all in with your poker chips, right? Every time they approach on that hill, it is all four players kind of aggressing, which is great for breaking the hill, but you see when they're taken down by the Pioneers, it's tough for them then to kind of regain that positioning because they are all dead or all out of a different position.
All teams stacked together now, trying to brute force their way into the next one, and so far that strategy has worked out pretty well, taking the initial control and one of the most difficult points to maintain as well, this lower center point, so claustrophobic to play into, and then you have so many angles that players can just kind of sneak into if you don't have full Overwatch established by the rest of your team. So you're going to see Pioneers surprisingly able to work their way towards it. They'll steal this hill away from Moist, pick up quite a few points themselves, and now they're taking a confident lead of right around 30 seconds or so ahead of what Moist has been able to grapple for themselves as we enter the second half of this lower center hill, with Moist now taking the control back for themselves for a second time.
Yeah, and I think the Pioneers, kind of this small lead that they've been able to get is off the back of just being able to outslay Moist. So when you are that aggressive team kind of relying on the kills, if you're getting outslayed, then your strategy can start to fall apart and you'll need to adjust. So we'll have to see if Moist can make those necessary adjustments as they do, again, take control of the hill, but right on that scrap time.
Toby finally meeting his match as he runs outside of the hill to try and get some better usage on this bat, but won't be able to negotiate it this time around here. Pioneers currently locking in their lead after we saw those last 20 seconds or so go over to Moist. They want it back to a healthy about 30-second or so advantage, and may not be able to negotiate for it, though. Toby from Moist as well as Hunnit able to pick up a sequence of 2 kills that wipes out the last of the resistance from the Pioneers on it, meaning that they've got a few seconds of peace here now to be able to lock in their own positions. You can see the Klo's going to maintain an off-hill spot, be able to rotate back around. He is right into, so we'll take a bit of damage here, forcing him to go a bit more passive for the next few moments, but he's got presence coming his way. He's not going to have a choice, needs to stay in the fray now. As you can see, Hunnit fending off the players from the other direction. 2 headshots back-to-back on the sniper here. He's going to look for a third as well, and he'll try to get it. Body shot connection will be good enough, allowing for his teammate to finish things off. He's got other players freshly spawned for the Pioneers trying to work their way back in, like that one through a portal.
Yeah, super great job out of Hunnit here, holding this hill, allowing Moist to get back in it. And I do like how they just sort of slowed down, kind of kept the same slaying style. We're still looking for the kills, but we're being a little bit more methodical about it, so well played to Moist there.
Moist getting some real points back on the board as of that last hill, but have handed control by default over to the Pioneers for this next one here, meaning they can just as quickly come back into a winning shape. They'll need to keep themselves alive to be able to accomplish that, though. 2 of their players now down. One already respawned, to be fair, so not at the end of the world, but as you can see, Moist has already stolen hill control away from the Pioneers because of the loss of those 2 players. They're going to try to work themselves back in and negotiate for it themselves. Here's the run out, but those shots from the plasma just not connecting in the way they need to, so the hill is going to flip just as quickly as it flipped over to Moist here as the Pioneers try to run back their lead again.
Yeah, that was 4 down for Moist Esports, but with just about 15 seconds remaining on this hill. Not too much of a loss as they'll be able to maintain their lead through this rotation. Of course, some of those power weapons going to be spawning around that 4-minute mark. So Moist being out of the hill, not the end of the world there. So we see the sniper coming up in a few, but it does look like Kush has his eyes lined up, going to be able to contest Klo for that one. So nice little play out of Kush, able to secure that double as well. Great stuff out of KCP.
So they have another member of the team working their way on the back end of that one too. Kaleidoscope actually coming together here for Kush because of that team play. So beautifully done for him, as him and his teammates work together to completely destroy the spawn routes from Moist there, prevent them from working anything back together, and continue to lock in a consistent hold over this hill as it's shifted to a second one now. KCP really keeping these chained together, which has allowed for them to negotiate back control of the lead for a second time, only to, so unfortunately lose it just as they had been locked in as well. Ritz with the sniper going to be able to fend off the last bastion of resistance on that hill control, so Moist once again reaches forward with the lead just as they were about to lose it.
Yeah, I mean, but still a great play out of the Pioneers, though. We're able to take the last 20 seconds of that previous heal, recognize power weapons were up, but here is Toby making a run for this lead.
Just doing the same exact thing again with the power weapons. The bat getting a nice insertion, going the entry, powerful enough to allow the rest of KCP to work their way back in. Unfortunate flick there coming in from Toby Repellent as he tries to prepare himself for a portal jump in, but instead it's just an outright rush from the members of Moist as they try to battle back for control over this hill, and more importantly, to stop the point bleed, to stop the Pioneers from running away with the advantage. They won't be able to do it. KCP resumes control over the hill with still about halfway to go on it as well, so they are now in control yet again by about a 10-second lead here. But as you can see, members of Moist very quickly trying to stop that from happening. They do not want to lose this game.
No, not at all. And Booze has been kind of a silent killer here, putting in lots of work in the slaying department, stopping some of that Moist patented aggression. The trade going to come through on that one as Hunnick goes down. But Moist going to be able to take control of this hill. But we see two players from the Pioneers trying to approach here. Install on Ritz to try to defend this one for the time being.
Ritz unfortunately cornered on both ends of the hill there. No safe place to fall back on. And also the hill's moving in 5 seconds, so he's just going to evacuate from that position entirely, get himself ready to run a few flanks against the members of the Pioneers. And it'll work out pretty well, too, managing to fend off at least one member of the squad and still having a safe path to get himself onto the New Hills territory here. Moist is locked in with the lead yet again, and is now only about 40 seconds away from being able to claim this map as their own in relatively close fashion here. Neither team able to take a huge advantage just yet. You can see them just spamming their nades down as the members of KCP try to insert themselves with portals, but it's just not working out. And with about 25 seconds to go, it's looking more and more like Moist be able to lock this one in, especially with the denial of these entries coming out for the Pioneers. It's not over just yet here, but it seems like Moist is in a very good position.
Yeah, and I like this portal placement here, able to watch that drop down and the hill simultaneously. So a fantastic strategic play here out of Moist. And just needing 4 more seconds to lock this one in, it looks like they will be able to do it. So while they didn't even necessarily outslay the Pioneers throughout the entirety of the game, it was their decision-making towards the end, towards that final hill that locked it in for them. So while we kind of gave them accolades for their slaying power, they proved they have both the brains and the brawn there in that map one.
Yeah, definitely agree. I think we saw for the first half of the map a bit more of a loose approach to things for Moist. They were okay to take a couple scrappy fights, maybe come on the losing end of it, just kind of loosely piece themselves back together, but they realized the Pioneers were just outwitting them by taking that strategy, and after we got past that halfway point, they really recentered themselves, focused up a lot more, especially as we got towards that 200 point mark for both teams there. They really started to focus up, being like, guys, all right, we really need to lock in this lead. We need to stop these traded points where we're each taking 30 seconds off of each one. And from that point forward, Moist had much more consistent control, was actively looking for flanked shutdowns, as we saw from one of their players at one point there, and was just much more efficient at maintaining hill control, especially for that final one there.
Yeah, I think just a great job towards slowing things down a little bit for Moist Esports, just able to kind of refocus and make those adjustments, which can be tough for teams. So I think it's a great credit to their name that they were able to make that mid-game adjustment in their style and in their approach. So well played to them. But going into the TDM, I think it's going to be another toss-up, another close one, just because we've seen the slaying power out of both of these squads.
Yeah, considering the kind of natural style as well we were talking about at the beginning of the last game, where they want to play this more loose form, going into Olympus, this could be absolute chaos. But at the same time, they kind of have played against each other now as of that last map. They may be a little more aware of each other. rather. Moist more so than the Pioneers, in my opinion. So we'll have to see if Moist tries to play things a bit more cautiously, a bit more played back, which I won't lie is a bit difficult to do on Olympus. Once again, a fairly open-natured map with lots of portal access from halfway across. So this is going to be interesting as we get into it.
Yeah, definitely. I think, though, that this map kind of plays into their styles both, so they're just hoping, you know, to outslay each other, have one of their players pop off and carry, but we'll have to see if that's the case here as Pioneers start off on top here on Olympus.
Yeah, Pioneers with 3 straight for themselves before one is even traded back, and a 4th is as well retraded in the favor of the Pioneers. I think that's all 4 shots coming out already from the rail as well, so using up that entire thing nice and quickly here. The Rockets, unfortunately, not so much. They're going to get launched off the map. There we go. There's the 3rd shot, coming out from the rail. Still a bit of ammo left in it, apparently, as we're going to see Zyber continuing to utilize it here, locked in his 3rd kill, and there's the 4th. Now it's been all used up here. Thought he was pretty quick with that, but just a bit slower either way. Gets the 4 for 4 here. Trying to chase down another member of Moist, too, but it's a little bit harder to lock down because that player goes all the way out of bounds towards the bottom of the map, and Toby is going to end up running up behind him and whacking Zyber in the back when everything is said and done here.
So while the Pioneers started off really strong with that power weapon control, again, it is the answer back from Moist Esports being able to keep them in this one. So great job from Moist being able to identify those off power weapon players, get the slays on them, and now the Pioneers only lead by 1.
Rockets may have been a bit of a gaffe or mistake, if you will, from the members of the Pioneers as well there, just because they weren't expecting to get that kill so close. But in the situation, I agree it was better to deny both players the rocket there and trying to self-immolate, as well as launching the rockets themselves off the map. Just unfortunate now, as the Pioneers could have very easily used those 3 extra rockets to get themselves back in the fight. As you can see, Moist has already made up the difference and is just looking for that additional 2K to push themselves over the edge. They'll get it right now. Timing is perfect here as they go up 14-12 over the Pioneers.
Yeah, really like this play out of Hunnit. Again, his team just kind of letting him work, letting him be on those flanks while we see players on Moist like Toby and Ritz try to hold that high ground. So that is keeping them in this one, but power weapons not respawning yet for another minute or so, or at least those powerful power weapons. So we'll have to see if they start to work for that position, try to play around those, and if that can give Moist Esports the break they need to get this lead extended.
Kush with Overwatch here to prevent his other teammate from being jumped on. Unfortunately, they're not going to have a choice. 2 of them suddenly leap in through an enemy portal here. And on top of both of those kills being gained up in the tower, Klo negotiates a 3rd one from down below. Big push being made there from Moist. Keeps their lead on lock now. And a little bit less of an advantage they would probably like in this situation, especially with that flurry of kills coming out from Kush as well as Booze. Bringing the lead back down to only 2 here. And you can see Klo quickly portaling around pretty much the entire map looking for any viable target, but not going to be able to find anyone on their own. However, this angle is great, just can't lock down the kill outright. Another member of the team, I believe it was Kush, ends up running away down below.
Yeah, a minor victory, at least forcing the Pioneers off of the high ground out of those power positions as they look to set up towards these power weapons that will be spawning. Klo finally taken down, but Hunnit still alive and well with the high ground, trying to chase down Zyber. Spots Toby and Booze on the Pioneers, but he will fall at the hands of that 2v1.
Moist lead locked in, but again, the actual lead itself is starting to diminish a little bit. Only 25-22. Power up and spawn should be up any moment, and there we go. One stolen away, but also thrown into a portal. Looks like it does end up on the lower platform down in the middle, so someone will have to retrieve it. We can already see Klo in the area, but Klo more than likely going for rocket control, so we won't see the rail claim from that. Someone else would have had to have grabbed it, as Toby not going to end up finding anything down there. So we'll follow up on that in a moment and see who ends up with the big weapons on the field to be able to put some serious power back in the face of either team. Pioneers, though, with 4, if not 5 kills in a row here, is really going to rocket them back into a competitive point. Speaking of rockets, they do manage to get control of that going for themselves, so as you can see, definitely using it here as well. Members of the team able to insert themselves. Klo with a very nice management of that team fight, taking out both Toby and Booze, and now just continuing the run on the next fight here as he returns to the tower for a bit of a reset.
I'd really like Moist Esports' tempered approach to contesting these power weapons. I think we see a lot of teams just try to run in and secure those kills on the power weapon holders fast, but Klo taking that fight a little bit more patient allows him to secure a few of those kills and also stay alive in that high ground position, and that just allows his teammates to work around the map and extend this lead to 6 kills now. So well played out of the Moist squad.
Definitely a bigger focus on the macro game, it seems, right now for Moist. Try to control the overall map rather than just trying to go for small victories in the weapon pickups here, seeing as how chaotic of a game this is going to be. And as we've already seen, too, for the first 2 spawns, but how easily those weapons can be just tousled, dropped due to a dead player, and then never to be found again. Happened already with the first spawn of a Rockets. Pretty sure it happened, nicely done there. Pretty sure it happened with our second rail spawn as well. So the power weapon's not as much of a go-to victory point as they have appeared to be in some of our previous matchups.
Yeah, definitely. And I think that's kind of played into Moist's favor. I think the Pioneers were looking for those to kind of mount that comeback and go up against the strong shot and slay potential that Moist has. But Moist just kind of saying, hey, let's focus on the structure of the map positioning more so than those power weapons has really led them to their success here in map number 2.
Toby just can't get that portal down tower for some reason, so he's going to have to take his aggression somewhere else. We'll be able to find it, though, against the Toby from the other squad. Toby Repellent as he takes him down and also gets revenge for his now fallen teammate. It's going to be Zyber getting knocked out here. Booz immediately trading that back out as the Pioneers try to stay competitive, but once again are slowly losing their edge here. About a 7-point lead at the moment for Moist. Trying to make it 8, as you can see. Toby trying to lock down at least 1 kill, but can't necessarily find it. It's going to take Chloe to do so instead as he finds Zyber.
I think about 30 more seconds until our last or second to last rotation of power weapons come into play. So Pioneers on the back of that double kill from Toby, potentially the triple if his teammate's able to clean that up, might be an opportunity for them to work their way back into this one, only needing those 5 kills. But as we see, Moist able to just, or content to just hold this high ground and kind of let the power weapons potentially come to them.
Should be up in just a second or two here. Looks like we've got about 5 seconds or so left on the railgun spawn. Zyber just really harassing the members of Moist here. I think he has opened up the free pickup on the rails, but at the same time, Booz will be dropped. He might have been the player running through middle to grab that, so that could very well be a dead rail again, dropped across the map here. It's not the case, though, as I can see it on the UI now. Toby Repellent has picked it up and has claimed his first kill. Kush again also with the Rockets to be claimed. So Pioneers just continuously dominating on the power weapon pickups, and with both of them in hand, this could get a little dangerous for Moist coming into the last 10 kills they need to win the game. However, Ritz has been able to steal the Rockets. He'll use at least 1 to knock out a member of the Pioneers, and as you just saw there, the rails changing hands now as well. Over to Chloe.
Just, I mean, really great job of Moist being able to maintain that composure and really execute on that strategy, which I think some teams might even consider risky, not really overextending for those power weapons and just kind of relying on their team shot and their teamwork and their positioning to kind of weather the storm of the Pioneers' power weapon control.
Moist hoping to chain these trades together, and that will be enough to get them up to 60. They may just be right on that, but the Pioneers are a dangerous number of kills behind. Only 7 needed for them, so 2 full wipes, and this game is flipped on its head. But because Moist is obviously up at 59, Pioneers cannot lose a single player from this point forward. They're getting it done, but as you can see there, just that 1 kill, that 1 part of the map left unwatched will allow for Moist to win, and they ultimately do, although it is a very, very close scoreline.
Yeah, super close. And I mean, the Pioneers played that one, you know, textbook correct. They waited for the power weapons to come up. They secured both the Rockets and the railgun, but Moist was just able to execute in the slaying department and kind of neutralize those power weapons before they really ever got going.
I think Moist as well really using the fact that they had the lead for the large majority of that game pretty well. That explains some of the more passive play where they may have not directly tried to contest against some of those power weapon pickups. While they may have been just kind of like camping out inside of one of the 2 towers waiting for the aggression to come at them, as they felt they had a greater chance to fend off that aggression when it was thrown at them in that way. And generally speaking, I think they were correct, watching how some of those bigger team fights ended up going.
Yeah, I think this is just tough again for the Pioneers. Being one of those 0-2 teams, you can see how close they are in both the TDM and now in the King of the Hill and now the TDM, only 4 kills behind. So they are right on the cusp of being able to close these games out, but I really think Moist Esports got a nice little momentum boost and confidence boost after that map number 1, kind of having that back and forth, being able to capitalize on that final hill. They were kind of like, all right, we can clutch out, we can close out these games, and they've been able to do it. Now they just need to do it on map number 3 in that domination to close out the series.
Big score coming out there once again from Hunnit. We talked about how he'd be kind of the leading man in the fragging department for Moist, and very much showed it here in this map too at 29 and 15, but not a huge split between him and the rest of his teammates either. It's still a fairly team-focused affair. It's just he's the go-to player for fragging.
Yeah, he's kind of just the standout, right? A little bit above the rest of his team. So I'm curious to see how that plays out on our next map and in Domination. If his team can kind of just lock in these zones and allow him to kind of free roam around the map, pick up kills, that can be very scary for the Pioneers. But again, they are right on, the bleeding edge of being able to take one of these maps, so maybe they'll be able to pick up the slack in this Domination.
We talked about this in the pregame about how Atlantis was going to be an absolutely crazy map to play on to Domination, and we've got it coming up right now. Very excited to see how these two teams try to grapple with this, like we had seen before in some of our other Atlantis matchups. A lot of very narrow corridors, a lot of very straightforward pushes the teams have to attempt to make that oftentimes can be cut off entirely. That leads to an outright reset. So both of these teams need to truly bring the best strategies possible to the table. As trying to do things like run back caps and whatnot is not going to be as easy on this map as we've seen in some of the others. So let's find out.
Yeah, definitely not, but excited to get into this one. Excited to see if Hunnit can continue this hot streak. And we'll get into this one right away.
Once again, the Pioneers not slagging behind at all with regards to how they handle the first big team fight as they take the large majority of kills. They're going to be able to steal the rails away as well with that. And 2 caps right off the bat. Both of the home points being taken by them. As we can see, that A is already going to be reclaimed here very quickly, in fact, by the Moist roster. But while that was going on, obviously Pioneers had that bit of extra freedom. They were able to head back downstairs, take B for themselves. Here is the other difference, though. Once again, while Moist does not, as far as I can tell, at least get the initial pickup on the rails, they are able to find the player with it, prevent them from getting a lot of use out of it, and then steal it for themselves. Now they take that very important power weapon control and the 2-cap along with it. Nice chase as well. Catches Booze right on the other edge of the portal, I think a millisecond before he was about to close it.
Yeah, they even had a brief triple cap for a moment there as Toby is popping off with this railgun. And yeah, these long hallways are just perfect for it. Finally falls to Booze there. But again, in that meantime, in that chaos, Moist was able to pick up another triple cap, and they are feeling it here.
Hunnit as well. Happy he picks up that kill for sure. You can see a few members of the Pioneers trying to brute force their way into C. That will work out to get them the initial control over C, but now how's Moist going to stop them from running out to B? They don't have anyone here. Klo trades out 1 for 1 as another member of his squad starts to rotate back in, but again, Pioneers have the advantage inside of this fight here. They're going to be able to trade this out absolutely just because the spawns are working out in their favor. However, Hunnit changing up his team's fate again, running it on the back end with the assault rifle exactly when it was needed to shut down this attempt to cap away B. That's going to continue to lock in the 2-cap here for Moist. Thought for sure they would lose it, but was somehow able to grapple back control with that nice play from Hunnit.
Yeah, I think it is just their teamwork and their decision making. They've shown to be making the right decisions in those split seconds that they need to, and Hunnit slaying, he knows he has the confidence to walk into that hill and defeat that player to make that play. So the confidence boost that I think Moist has gotten throughout this series as it's transpired is really making all the difference, and that's why they've been able to flip these games so many times into their favor.
Yep, has had the consistent 2-cap for nearly the entire game, only a few seconds when we saw it go the other direction here, so that's led to a comfortable about 100-point or so lead over what the Pioneers have grappled together so far, 223 to 119. B is going to attempt it to be stolen away by Booze here now, but you can immediately see everyone from Moist jumping on, or at least half of Moist, trying to jump on to deny his presence. That'll work out as Ritz claims not only him, but his teammate, Toby, that was trying to help out with that cap.
Yeah, so it was a good play too, only even if to pull that focus away from Moist a little bit. We saw a brief 2-cap out of the Pioneers, but just to answer back, it's always that immediate answer, that response from Moist making all that difference. So Pioneers just can't mount that comeback when Moist has the perfect answer every time to your plays.
Excellent portal play right here from Klo, not even counting just the most recent 2K he's picked up, but the one before that as well, where he lines up the flank inside of the big side room. Excellently done. Definitely putting a serious lack on the ability for KCP to try and get themselves out from the box they seem to be locked into right now. Going to try and force themselves over towards C and start to steal that away, but again, you can see, although yes, they get the home point back under their control by railgun spawn, but they're just not able to move outside of that one. Moist have them locked inside of a box, and they are not going to show them the key anytime soon here, although they are able to steal at least a decap on B, and while they may not be able to fully cap it as of yet, keeping it neutral at this point is as good as gold for them.
Yeah, here we see Zyber, though, was able to secure that railgun. He's just looking for a good position to approach here, trying to get a couple of picks. Unfortunately, misses 2 shots out of that railgun. Third one is going to connect. Fourth is going to connect, and that allows the bat pick up 2, but it looks like Toby was able to find that kill, stop some of that momentum coming through from Zyber.
And again, important note, while this was going on, Moist resumed the 2-cap. Had to flip it a little bit as they went back to C and B. B has now gone into the hands of the Pioneers. This is something we didn't actually see up until this point. So the Pioneers actually getting the full cap on B does have the potential to change up the state of the game. We have to see, though, how Moist will look to respond to it at the moment, just flushing themselves into a decap position. That'll work out for A. That'll distract the Pioneers as well. As you can see, no resistance remaining on B as the players that were already there had either taken them down or they were otherwise worried about getting their A control back. So they take back B and actually recover very, very quickly to make sure their lead does not diminish.
Yeah, I think Moist having that week off to kind of take some time, look at footage, and kind of work on their team synergy has paid off really well for them because they're just looking on point with all of these rotations and all of their decision making. You can really tell all of them are on the same page. They are playing together so well here. The triple cap just kind of solidifying that point as a great response here to the Pioneers.
Triple cap only for a few seconds, though. The home point for the Pioneers does go back under their control. They're going to try and decap B. They'll be successful in it, too. Can make a big run right now to try to get themselves C also if they want to push directly into the faces of the Moist setup. But Moist, again, to some extent, this is part of the plan. They want to leash them together so they can wipe them out and now go back onto B, take it with basically no contest against them, as only 2 players for the Pioneers was even alive at that point. They're going to try to run back in on C, but as you can see, for the members of Moist, specifically Chloe, this rotationary capability to constantly get back onto C and successfully defend it is truly impressive. It looks like they're going to be able to fend off most of this pressure once again.
Yeah, really, Moist just controlling the flow of the map right now and really being able to read their opponents, which leads to Chloe being able to get those really impactful flanks. So Moist Esports continuing to impress here in our second match of the day.
He is attempting to be stolen away, but here's the problem. Toby running in on the back end is going to be able to immediately stop all the players that would have returned towards C. This should open up the floodgates for Moist to get back what they probably want as their home point, which is going to be C. Has much greater capability to jump on other points in the map from here, as well as just better overwatch from up on top, so they'll generally want to take this one. B, at this point, is not a huge priority more than likely for Moist. They just want to try and control the game from C. If they can lock it at 1-1, that's perfectly fine for them, as they can just leech that all the way up to the 700-point marker. Neither team can maintain control as A and C get flipped again here. Pioneers able to push themselves into it because Moist priorities were split, but they as well took A away. So really nothing gained in the long run here for the Pioneers yet.
No, and I think really Moist has been doing such a good job of at least maintaining possession of one hill. It's just allowed this lead to stay so far ahead of the Pioneers. As there we see them finally lose A, Pioneers holding B and C, but we'll have to see if Moist can respond as well as they've been doing all series.
Indeed, they've distracted for so long, it might not make up too much of a difference here, even with the triple cap being maintained there. As you can see, still 200 points behind, so Moist not going to be struggling at all. However, again, good fights being taken by the Pioneers, still keeping themselves in a very comfortable position, especially being able to use the rails that we see from Toby there. He'll be hunted down by Chloe. Not sure if the weapon itself will be stolen away, but either way, members of the Pioneers keeping that 2-cap consistent, also matching the pressure direction we're generally seeing from Moist, always meeting the challenge directly in their face. And while this generally has led to Moist being able to control things in the long run, at the moment, it's not playing out that way, but things could be shifting here. A, finally locked in for the members of Moist. B, going to quickly be stolen away as well. There's their 2-cap, at risk of losing A, but I believe that was successfully stopped, so things are back into the way that they should be for the fans of Moist.
And really just another huge play out of Hunnit there, able to pick up the one slay with that railgun. We saw the immediate rotation around to secure the B hill, so that was a great response from Moist yet again. 3 down for the Pioneers. Ritz picking up the slack as Hunnit had been taking down. And here's Moist only controlling that pivotal B hill, able to pick up C as well and looking to close out and regain in this series with that 3-0 sweep.
Just about 15 seconds left, and they should be able to do so, so there's going to be a hard focus on defending both of those points. Now, B will be lost. That increases the time they need just a tad, and you can see as well, part of the strategy from the Pioneers does involve keeping that A portal wall locked away, so that is limiting some of the rotation options for their own players, and could explain some of the issues they've been having trying to successfully offend onto C also. Either way, Moist run the 2-cap up to 700 as we were expecting, and they take control of the map because of it.
Yeah, I think Moist looking really solid. Really, you could the adjustments they made were kind of palpable, right? Being able to play around their Slayers better this week than in previous week, I think makes them a really scary roster, and especially that they were able to make those decisions that they needed to make to get themselves back into 2 out of these 3 games. They were behind for at least some amount, but were able to come back into it. So I think Moist Esports looking very solid here on match day 3.
Yeah, absolutely the case. So the Pioneers just need to look into how they kind of get themselves back into the fight a bit better. We've seen some of the same concerns out of other teams such as Elevate here, where they've got a greater capability than Elevate, in my opinion, to kind of like strategize here and overall stay in the fight for longer. But it's still the problem of them eventually getting kind of flushed down the toilet due to their respawn, just kind of being forced into a corner of the map, and then they're locked in a box, and their opponents are generally able to keep them in throughout the rest of that map. The last map there was a bit of an exception. I think they did a pretty good job of keeping up the fight throughout the large majority of it. It was just the early lead was too much to come back from ultimately.
Yeah, and I even think I would go as far as to say that like the Pioneers were making the right decisions, but it was like that almost like kid in a candy store. Like their eyes got too wide. They're like, oh, we have the railgun and the rockets. We got this. And it was just they needed to focus on that next play. They kind of got themselves into the position they needed to be able to win, especially in that TDM, right? That was kind of the most standout one for me is they had, I believe it was both rockets and railguns secured, but Moist just had the high ground and were able to close it out that way. So Pioneers making the right decisions, but just not following through on the kills they needed to secure with those power weapons. They changed that up again. Now the most probably undeserving 0-3 team in the league right now, because I think all of the games in this series had just hinge moments where Moist just made the right decision or the better decision or capitalized just a little bit better. So well played to Moist, but again, Pioneers another one of those teams right on the cusp of being great.
I don't want to harp on this next point. I don't have to make too heavily just because this could have been in large majority because of the maps and how easy it is to like flake out opponents generally speaking. But another thing I noticed too, and I think we both picked up on this at one point, was the Pioneers great at getting the power weapon, getting it off of spawn, not so great at keeping it and being able to use it all the way. That's an area where we were seeing Moist constantly harass them, able to steal that power weapon control away, and then they were able to use it a bit more efficiently. So that's another area where, again, probably in my opinion was a bit more because of the maps more than anything, but the Pioneers might want to take a bit of a better look at how they're handling those situations.
Yeah. Again, I think, it goes back to their setup was good, the strategy was there, but once they got the power weapons, they weren't capitalizing on it enough, and that was kind of the story of that series. So well played, though, to Moist Esports. Got to give it up to them. Well done, and they continue to kind of bounce back from that E-United loss that they suffered in the previous week. So well played to Moist. E-United versus LG is going to be that next matchup. I'm excited to see that one. E-United, again, #1 in the standings currently, so we are going to throw it to a quick commercial break, and then we'll be right back with that match. Stay tuned. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we are back with the Splitgate Pro Series presented by Prime Gaming, and I can't believe we're already halfway through the day, right? 2 3-0s to start things off, but I don't think that's what we're going to get out of the next matchup. It is going to be an intense one, I think, between E United and Luminosity. Now, I got the chance to sit down and talk with Swooty a little bit about how his team approaches the mental aspect of Splitgate. So let's throw it to that interview clip now.
Man, I'm not gonna lie to you. It wasn't starting off well. You know, of course, I feel like all teams they have their little bumps, and I'm glad that we had a few little bumps before the season started. You know, even that week one, we had a few little bumps, but I think us were able to talk it out. You know, if somebody's telling us, hey, this and that, because we hold each other accountable. If someone's telling me this, okay, I got you. You know, I work on that. I tell Apollo, I'll tell Suppress or Char. You know, none of us take it to heart. We know we all have areas to improve. So it's just same mentality. We know what we're all capable of doing, and that's how Splitgate is. You know, it's just an all mental game, and just making sure everybody's on the right page. Everybody wants to, be better. Everybody wants to get better every day, taking scrim serious, this and that. So just all mentally, getting prepared, because we know that, on paper we're not the best looking team. K Jules on SSG and all them, T1 winning before, X set looking good too. So it's like we know we're not the best, but so it's all like mentally getting prepared. Like, okay, we got to compete. We got to want it more than them. So I think that's what is helping us right now. That drive, that hunger. Like, we really are passionate about winning.
All right, so like he said, it is all about that mindset, being passionate about winning, and he called out the big three right there on their schedule. So really, like we talked about earlier, a lot of ebbs and flows to certain schedules for certain teams, maybe a tough matchup one week, an evenly matchup the next, and a favored matchup on the following. But for E United, it is kind of a meteoric rise in terms of the teams they have to go up against. A good start being 2-0 in the standings, but after Luminosity today, then they have to go up against T1, Space Station, Xset, and then they finally, maybe, we'll have to see, Elevate could be a really strong team by the time that final week rolls around. So E United, I think they have the right approach, though. We kind of heard Sudi talk about it. It's got to be that mental aspect. You have to stay focused, especially looking at a schedule like that.
Yeah, absolutely the case here. But either way, I mean, him talking about like, oh, we know we're not the best on paper. I'm pretty sure you guys are the best on paper right now for our standings.
Good point.
What are you talking about there?
Yeah, we can show you the paper.
I kind of get the point they're making, though. Is it like reputationally wise, they're not like the highlight team right now, but they could very well end up being that squad, especially if they manage to get another victory against Luminosity, who has been, despite the fact that they're 0-2, one of, if not, like the top 3 most competitive teams inside of the SPS right now, just going off of the actual matches that we've witnessed.
Yeah, Luminosity taking Space Station to a Game 5, I think, is that standout highlight of don't count Luminosity out. So E United facing challenge after challenge, week after week. But here is your map rotation for the upcoming series. So we're going to be going to King of the Hill on Helix, then TDM on Crag. Map 3 is going to be Domination on Atlantis yet again. Map 4, King of the Hill on Impact, and TDM on Abyss. So to keep in mind, or kind of keep things framed up, E United has kind of final selection on maps 1, 3, and 5 of this series. So kind of looking at the maps they're taking, kind of those long corridors with hill hold opportunities for them in Helix and Atlantis, and we'll kind of have to see how Crag plays out. I think they'll be strong on that as well, but again, against Luminosity, it's a team you simply cannot count out.
I think more so than anything, United going for maps here where they can kind of control the pace, especially on the objective modes that they've selected here for King of the Hill as well as Domination. That applies to Abyss to some extent, but everything's kind of thrown out the window with TDM anyway, so that doesn't matter so heavily. But for these two objective ones, they're going to be focusing pretty heavily on trying to lock themselves in with a position where they can control things, and then basically allowing them to kind of dictate the pace from that point forward with the way the map's laid out. Let's see if that's going to be true as we get ourselves into the first map now. Obviously, King of the Hill here, so let's see who's going to get that initial control for themselves as these teams fight for the opener.
Yep, so here we see it all loaded up, starting on board with Apollo. going to be looked towards pushing towards this hill, but I think you made a really astute point there in them looking to control the pace of the map, because again, while they're #1 in the standings, they aren't necessarily topping the charts in, say, objective time, in KDA, or any of those stats, but they're able to find these wins. So we'll have to see if that trend continues here in match day 3 for E United.
And so far for our first circle, they're definitely doing that here. A few seconds being bled off by a few members of LG. You can see Crazy's running on there at the end of that sequence, but not nearly enough to actually get the full force of United away from it. They got Apollo sitting back on these rafters, waiting in the wings. And now that that first hill has expired, you're going to see United taking just over half of it, as a very healthy 30-point lead is built up for them. However, not able to contend too much with the second spawn, as you'll see. LG gets themselves onto that and has a pretty consistent lock on it, too. So they're going to start getting some pretty serious point gain themselves that might very well negate what United got on that first hill.
Yeah, and that's part of Splitgate that almost we don't even touch on, is the speed at which you can play. Great triple kill out of Apollo, going to be able to break that setup, but LG, good rush to that initial hill, setting up. You saw the portals on the wall, kind of locking that site down, so a great speedy reaction to that hill rotation, but a better answer from Apollo in the slaying department.
Yeah, awesome flank coming out there from Apollo to really put in the rest of the numbers that needed to be found to knock out the members of the hill that were holding on there. It's opened up room for him off of Respawn and a few other members of the team to jump on. In fact, you can see just how much of LG has already been able to resurface onto this hill. However, United stopping the bleeding for a few seconds, but ultimately still going to see Luminosity come within about 15 seconds of reach of them, as our next hill is going to expire, and we'll see this upcoming one currently be controlled by United, but will they be able to keep it, though? As you can see, it's a little bit of a pit that 2 other members will have to hold on to, trying to fend off the rotation portal walls, but not going to be able to do so successfully. Apollo, though, will still maintain it, as a few other members of the team are able to hop off of the hill and keep the fight going against members of LG. Apollo's time in the sun might be up here in just a moment, though, as indeed he will be found out. That's another triple kill now, and never mind, an entire team wipe coming out from LG, as they're going to be able to take this hill for quite some time after that.
Yeah, a really good answer back from Luminosity, and again, their roster looking very solid, keeping up in that slaying department, but E United having a good job taking the lion's share of that hill, so Luminosity going to be forced to rotate off of this one eventually, but I like that Bala is just kind of getting the scrap time, being able to stay alive there, as Grad and Vexy join him in the hill and look to break out as the rotation nears.
Luminosity keeping their title as a team that refuses to give up. Very quickly finds control over the lead inside of this matchup, despite United having a great first footing on our center hill to start things out. Third one is now finished, and we can see Luminosity in control by approximately 10 seconds here, as neither team is going to be able to take at least the initial spawn of the next hill. But you can see from our kill feed, very heavily in the favor of United, wiping out 3 members of LG most recently here. Power weapons up as well, with Suppress having control over the rails. He's already starting to harass members of LG, a little bit too short there, unfortunately, on that second shot, so that one will miss, but the first one did find a connection, as we're seeing United, oh, so close from Grad there on the rail shot, or rather from Suppress, but he's not going to be able to line it up. Grad takes him down. Thankfully, other members of the team are still here, so they quickly exchange it back out, and United continue to maintain control, so they're just a few seconds away from their first 100 points now.
Ooh, so Apollo almost getting the double with that rail there, but while Suppress was taken down earlier, E United's teammates managed to take down 3 of Luminosity. So while there is some pressure being applied to this hill, E United has been responding perfectly in every break attempt that LG has thrown at them, so a really good hill hold, but now they'll look to rotate. We'll see if LG can secure this one and start to rack up some of this hill time.
Charmander going to put his best foot forward as he lurches up and attempts to get himself a nice double kills here. He'll get that, actually, with Apollo helping him out a bit to finish off the second player. And now continue to have freedom to rotate around the rest of this map, holding on to this very important Raptors positioning. Up to 10 kills now for Charmander. Let's make it 11 as well, as he knocks out Vexy, finally running it out of gas, though, as Grad's going to be able to take not only him down, but Swooty, too.
I'm going to have to find out what piece of paper Swooty was looking at when he said they weren't that good on paper, because I'm seeing some mistakes across the board there. They are looking very strong here in map number 1. Now, granted, Luminosity has done a good job of trying to answer back and applying that pressure, but I think United might be, while they aren't #1 on any of the leaderboard stats besides standings, it is their playmaking. They make the right plays when they need to so consistently that it really is that X factor for their squad.
Suppress's run into the point there was a great example of that. In fact, we switch hills, and 3 members of LG are just freshly spawned, don't have proper weapons, and are going to be split up from each other, so that gives our newest hill here that spawned about 10 seconds ago, almost by default, over to the members of E United. Beautifully played there by Suppress, Suppress once again, who made that great play with the rails earlier on. Now him and Charmander are already piecing together to line up 2 additional kills against against the LG roster. They're fighting back against it though. You could see Grad was really the shining star for LG inside of this game. He's fighting back, wants to steal that hill control away, wants to stop United from running away with the 50+ point lead that they were about to build up, and they'll succeed in doing that, but players still being left so low. Great support coming in from Grad though off of the site is going to force Swooty away from his current position and allow for more consistent control from LG on the actual hill.
Yeah, really solid run here out of Charmander. Continues to be a force to be reckoned with, spotting Vexy, getting shots on him, able to take him down as well. So it is really just Charmander able to catch fire here, and his teammates really rallying around him, allowing him to open up, get these slays, and they're like, we'll handle the objective, we'll handle everything else. You go kill people while you're hot.
Charmander gonna be third portaling himself around to a few different spots on the map, and he'll find his insertion point just when Grad was brought down a little bit too low there as well. He'll be knocked out. Nicely done. A railgun for his troubles too, as that was only freshly spawned, but he's just a half second or so away from knocking out Crazies, who will instead find him and put the rails back under the control of LG as they try to still come back against this one. A lot of kills going into their favor, but just not necessarily a lot of hill time. This hill specifically is a bit hard to do it, so you can't blame them too much, but still that about 50-second or so lead has consistently stayed in play for the members of United and is not looking like it's going to shrink anytime soon.
No, for the time being though, Luminosity does have control of these power weapons. Crazies is going to go down with that rail. I believe someone on LG might have picked up that shotgun that Suppress dropped, but for the time being, Charmander has had gifts delivered into his pockets with that railgun in the back. Ooh, but unable to secure the kill. Crazies again, taking him down while he has possession of that railgun, but United able to stay ahead just in that hill time department while everyone was fighting for power weapon control.
So Apollo strikes back first after we see those rails attempt to be lined up once again against the members of United. It will still work out for them at the end of the day as Apollo steals it away for one final shot before he goes down too. United's lead has diminished quite heavily, so LG once again trying to make the comeback for themselves and is going to succeed more than likely in doing so here, unless United's most recent push is going to find results. Looking like it may though. 2 kills coming out from them, Suppressed with the most recent pickup here, but at the same time Crazy's on the flank to deny the presence and keep Grad alive and on the hill so they can continue to gain some of their own. Only about 5 seconds or so away from taking the lead, and with the majority of United just being wiped out a few seconds ago, more than likely they will catch up to that scoreline, and just now Luminosity will finally take the lead away.
Yeah, and it's really all on the back of Crazies getting these super important picks on the power weapon holders for United, and Crazies really just thinking one step ahead, trying to defend the rotation on that hill. Tied up now, but United with the answer back, going to have possession of this hill and try to extend that lead again, get themselves a little bit of a cushion as this game nears close.
Bit of a teeter-totter between either team, but it's going to come down to the final 50 to 60 seconds of control. We can see as well that it's actually coming down to the final minutes also. Only one hill remains after this one, so United wants to build up as much of a lead as they possibly can to prevent the inevitable here, prevent this from going to overtime, where LG would look to finally get one of their own victories after becoming the victim of this overtime so many times in the past already here at the SPS. Luminosity claiming the last 15 seconds, or at least attempting to do so on this hill, but they need to make sure they can keep chase for the next hill as well. That is the one that will obviously determine the game, so that is arguably the more important one.
Charmander still doing a great job of finding these picks, stopping some of these flanks coming through from Luminosity, but this hill is going to be rotating with Luminosity at a 6-second lead. Power weapons are going to be spawning. We see Grad trying to snag this railgun right as it comes up, so this could be the comeback that Luminosity needs right now as Grad picks up the nice kill on the killing spree, finds Apollo, and is finally taken down, so now United has their work cut out for him.
This is the issue, that we got more than one power weapon, but no, it's not going to play out well there for Suppress as he goes down with the shotgun in hand. That could have made up the difference for United. I'm not sure if they're going to be able to get themselves back onto the point now. No real power weapons to insert themselves with, no shotgun, no railguns to play into. You can see every player that's trying to push forward here is getting decked so quickly, but despite that, they've been able to flip it. They've been able to put it back under their own control here, but only 2 players from what I can see on the actual point. The fresh respawns will need to be so fast to support their teammates here, and that's going to be the big test now as they start to route themselves back in. One more shot remained on the rail that Swooty's going to be able to use here. However, LG are getting the trades. They need to get on the point here and lock in the lead, and they'll be able to do so as Luminosity takes control of map number 1 by a measly 10 to 15 second lead over United.
Man, a tough break at the very end there for United. they were leading essentially the entire map. But that power weapon control kind of fell out of their hands. I think E United just prioritized the hill rotation, given the situation that they found themselves in, which, I mean, wasn't necessarily the wrong decision, but it gave Luminosity just the edge in those battles, and with that hill specifically, to clutch that one out.
We saw that as well, a little bit of struggle, even though they initially had the shotgun for themselves to contend against the rails that the members of Luminosity were controlling inside of that final hill, but the shotgun wasn't able to field its results there. We saw, I believe, it was Suppress having it in hand, missed a couple of shots that led to his death, the shotgun getting exchanged over to LG, and that was what United really needed, an extra power weapon to properly initiate, get themselves a free kill without much damage being traded back, so they could keep 3-4 players alive there on that hill for when the respawns from LG came around. That didn't happen, they lost too many, and while yes, 2 players were on that hill trying to trigger us inside of overtime, they did not have enough power there to fend off against the fresh respawns coming in from LG, so they got wiped off. LG held it at 0 seconds with the lead, so they take that first map.
Yeah, and just a nice play from Luminosity. I think, well-deserved. They're definitely one of those teams that we were kind of waiting for them to start to get out to an early lead in a series, but on the reverse side, now we'll have to see what Swooty kind of talked about in his interview earlier, and it is that mental game. How do they bounce back from a tough loss like that, and especially on a map that they chose? So now we'll be going into the TDM on, I believe it was Crag, which is Luminosity fielded map, so maybe they'll feel a little bit more comfortable and be able to extend this lead to 2-0 in the series.
Absolutely. Luminosity are here to make a name for themselves today after some very unfortunate results as of the past 2 weeks, probably feeling that this matchup is their best chance yet to get onto the board and make a statement with it. So I'm curious to see if they're going to go for the outright 3-0 or if United as well is going to rise from the grave here on our equalizers, we started to call it. Team Deathmatch coming up in just a second as we get started with the second map on Crag.
Yeah, and I'm really excited just jumping ahead to see how the standings shake out today, especially if Luminosity is able to take this one. I feel like everyone's going to be tied, so we'll have to see who the dominant team is at the end of today's standings. But for the time being, we are in game number 2 of match number 3 on match day 3, and E United looking to tie the series up against LG.
We know that Luminosity was already at the top of the bracket for our 0-2 teams. Nicely done from Bala here and making immediate use of those rails off of spawn and catching a flank against members of E United they're completely unaware of. So that's 2 free kills being claimed with that power up. But anyway, to finish the point really quickly here, LG, yes, at the top of the barrel of the 0-2 teams, it's mainly because they have such an impressive win-loss percentage for their maps. So if they're able to push themselves forward and end up in a 1-2 stack, that's going to put them in a much better position as we see Bala continuing to negotiate more and more kills while still yielding control over that power weapon, which has finally, of course, run out of juice. That does mean we're going to start seeing some kills from E United flood into the feed, but Bala still with that Overwatch from up on top, and Crazy as well, still holding the shotgun, means that LG have the considerable amount of control for the time.
Yeah, I think, with Crag on the objective game types, that power position that Bala was in is even stronger because essentially your opponents have to rotate to get to those objective sites, but in the Team Slayer, you can play that a little bit slower, so a good job of E United not necessarily getting caught out specifically from Bala in that power position, but he's still there, still 7-0, and still being dominant, so well played to him off this early start for LG.
Bala's just like a final boss right now, at the top of the map right now, getting callouts from his teammates. Whenever someone's brought even slightly low, he'll just immediately headhunt them, as we've seen on a few occasions already, and take them down even if they're trying to rotate somewhere else. So more than anything, Bala's just stopping the bleeding, as E United do get quite a bit of a respectable kill amount going for themselves here, but unfortunately none of their players able to really get away, and you can see it there. Bala able to get his 10th kill on the board before finally being traded there. Excellently done.
Yeah, I mean, right. Job done for Bala. Took all of that attention from E United. We saw several flanks coming through. Hopefully that opens up some more opportunities for his teammates to get into the positions they want to be in on the map. Charmander continuing some of that heat that he was on the previous map. 7 kills to his name. And E United doing a good job of closing that gap in the score department. Able to take down Vexy here. Finds Grad. Can he pick up 2? A nice killing spree for Charmander.
Done from Charmander as he tries to bring it back under the control of E United here. Now that they've finally dealt with the wrath of Bala from up on top and have destabilized the form of LG for at least a few seconds here. However, their own players being destabilized a little bit as we can see them being pushed back. Suppress, unfortunately, not able to escape his fate. LG is successfully able to knock him down, but Apollo and Swooty look like they did make it out into greener pastures. And now Charmander, because the timing has reset, has the right to jump in. He'll find a nice quick pickup versus Vexy. Look for another one on the portal rotate that you can see there, but won't really be able able to lock in any member of LG's position this early on, as they'll have to go hunting it somewhere else. With Swooty's kill, though, they've tied it up at 20-20, as unfortunately the prowess of Bala was not enough to stop the overall lead from bleeding away.
Yeah, Charmander wanting to hold this position as the Railgun's going to be spawning in a few seconds, able to bait out Vexy on that one, secure the Railgun for himself, knows Grad is coming, has that AR, is doing great work. Not sure if one of his teammates, it looks like Suppress did pick up that rail in his hands, charging it up in that power position. So nice strategy, nice work from E United to retake the lead here in the Team Slayer.
Fortunate for Suppress, had been charging that up for some time, waiting for a member of the opposing team to jump out of a portal, but he has to use an extra charge to get the job done. We'll run out the remaining charges as well. They're just picking up as many kills as possible and trying to lock in as strong of a lead as possible for the United camp. They got both power weapons as well. The shotgun now under the control of Swooty also. He's going to sit, though, below this mining hatch and just sit and see if he can wait for any member of LG to jump on top of him. That is not currently happening. He'll end up running himself out in the open, but a quick 1-2 combo on the carbine and shotgun will still take care of targets out in the open, as you're seeing here.
All right, so Swooty doing a good job here of just taking those routes to kind of maximize the effectiveness of that shotgun. Doesn't want to be out in the open too long. We'll see if he's able to hunt down this player in this ramp here. Is able to take out Bala. Nice job getting in and out, a quick hit, and immediately repositions. Now looking at this rail, or assault rifle. Able to pick up another kill there. So a great job of E United just kind of taking these fights patiently, making sure they don't overextend here while they have this lead.
As well, just so smooth with the shotgun play, knows it's not necessarily the range the weapon's intended to be used at, but making the best of a not-so-great situation there, as he's able to get the quick switches over to the carbine and knock out these players so often. United is able to hold on to a pretty successful lead because of that, currently at 10 kills, and not necessarily looking like it's going to be diminishing anytime soon, although the power weapons, for the most part, have been bled out, so they've lost that edge, and you're seeing immediate results follow through on that. LG picking up a sequence of 3 kills, no trades coming in at all from United, so the 10-kill lead has gone down to only 7 now as a result of that, and United, as you can see, has gone down below to try and reset themselves a little bit, get themselves into a safer position, but that may be prove difficult to achieve here as Charmander gets himself into a bit of an involuntary fight, and so far most of these players only able to go 1 for 1. That's acceptable, though, for E United as long as the lead stays strong.
So here we see Bala going to be trading out a double kill. Apollo able to take him down, and really it's a fight right now for this positioning. They want to get towards the high ground when these power weapons aim to respawn, which should be in about 30 seconds or so, give or take, when they were picked up around the map. So Apollo right now on the hunt with this plasma rifle, trying to just find a flank, predict where LG is going to be off this power weapon spawn. Crazies is going to fall, find Grad right behind him, so a great flank from Apollo, going to give E United a 10-kill lead here.
United just under 15 as well from locking in the victory on their first map here. They will put us in a 1-1 scoreline. Apollo going to bite off a little bit too much for that engagement. Wasn't expecting the push to come out from the corner, but regardless will be knocked out, even though he fell back through the portal there. Just a bit too easy for the members of LG to read into. And once again, chasing the tail of this lead. They are so close, potentially bringing it back once again here, just as we saw at the end of the last map. Vexy, good turnaround there in his fight versus Suppress, and with Crazies having another kill, the lead is down to only a +5 for E United here.
Yeah, Crazies goes down with that railgun. Apollo does have the shotgun right now as well, so E United in a great position to try to close this one out.
United indeed still going to have to contend with some very powerful weapons themselves, as we can see Swooty making great use of the rails there, knocking out, I believe, 3 before he finally goes down. LG had to throw a lot at that fight, and unfortunately didn't get a whole lot in return, only an additional trade or 2 going into their favor. So United has ultimately served the purpose of this fight. We're actually going to see Apollo try to go forward with the shotgun as well, only able to leash together 1 kill so far, but he's close to his second. However, Charmander won't be able to follow through that pursuit entirely. He'll end up going down in the process, but so will Suppress and Apollo. Once again, LG fighting for the back end of this, but they're not going to give up the fight here. Still, just about 5 kills behind, and at this point, too, now that we've reached about 50 for both teams, they're going to slow things down tremendously. For Bala, though, not so much. He'll get swiped out by Swooty. Won't even be able to back away from his portal in time. Apollo takes another fight, but he ends up on the losing end of it. Tries to run through an enemy portal. He, too, goes down as LG. 4 kills behind E United, but they themselves can only lose 4 players, or this game goes to E United.
Yeah, and it looks like Suppress is being hunted right now. 2 members of E United found. That is going to be a killing spree for Crazies. The double kill comes through as well. E United needs 3, but LG only trailing by 3. LG doing a great job of not only staying alive, slowing down the pace, and just trying to catch E United out of position.
Watching Crazies right now, trying to see if he'll get anyone running up from the mines down below here. 6% left, and that should be good enough for at least one more kill before he'll be forced to swap that away. Big problem, though, is that United has stabilized this scenario. They brought it down to only one more kill is all they need, and they're going to find that Swooty locks one in to shut it down. United ties us up now at 1-1, taking control of our second map on TDM.
So a really important victory for United there. Not only taking LG's map pick off of them, you know, kind of returning the favor there in a sense, but in a clutch scenario, kind of mirroring what LG did them in the previous map. So I really like what United showed there, and now we've kind of had a reset going into this third map domination.
Yep, indeed. It's going to turn into pretty much a best of 3 from this point forward here, and all 3 game modes still to be played out as well. So a reset put before us as both teams bringing a very even performance to the table. As you can see, only 6 kills separate our winners from our losers in this matchup. Just like we saw with our first matchup there on King of the Hill, things were also very close in that department as well, with LG being able to win that one only by about 15 seconds or so of hill control. Our third map coming up here is going to be domination, so this will really start to test all of our teams, spread them very thin as well, but more than likely, because it's on Atlantis, we'll be playing in a somewhat similar fashion, I think, with both teams trying to prioritize that control over towards the big aquarium on C, and then seeing if they can get B through that as well.
And here are your objective leaders, just kind of looking across the board. It is Bala leading the entire Splitgate Pro Series with an average of 150 points per game. App close behind there with 146, and then Mason with 136 per game. I think we'll look at Mason later on today because some of his stats are worth bringing up and kind of analyzing in its own right. But Bala, being that big objective-focused player, we'll have to jump on board with him, see if he's able to get Luminosity out to an early lead here.
All right, let's get into it. Once again, domination. So both of our teams going to quickly sprint over towards those initial home points, take control. B does initially go to LG. There's a slight advantage given to them, but you can see United with at least 2 players on the edge. They've got the rails as well. Suppress going to be able to line up 1 kill with it, but he gets traded out by Grad, so a possibility now for the rails to be stolen away. That'll be denied, though, as Swooty sits nearby. Another member should be able to pick up the rails. However, Apollo can't line up the shots. It's going to be Vexy taking back control, or rather maintaining control of B. However, all at the same time, C has been sniped away by the United roster, so they're going to hold the A and C extremities. A apparently not for too long, as that is already starting to be claimed by the members of Luminosity, but at the potential cost of B, as we can see a few members of E United starting to sneak into there.
I really like the aggressive peek out of E United there. It took both power weapons out of Vexy's hands, and now they're in the hands of Suppress, so he's going to be able to hold that B hill for at least just a little bit, but as you see, Bala, the objective leader here, jumping right onto that B hill, trying to secure it for his team and keep this LG lead growing.
Things already going a little bit more chaotic than we saw out of our previous matchup here on this map with the same game mode, but LG really shutting down the most recent attempt from E United to get themselves back onto hill. Wanted to directly contend against C, and that led to a large majority of their players trying to push down the hallway leading out into it, which ultimately just led to them being fully wiped while the members of LG were already back capping the only other point they controlled. So this is a very, very long trip cap that they're going to be able to maintain. C will finally be decapped, but I don't necessarily think that they're going to be able to get it fully for themselves. There we go. They do lock it in as Apollo is able to hold on, but the question is going to be for how long now, and can they spread it back out? The answer apparently is yes. They're able to negotiate positioning on to B. Respawns are routing back in from LG, so they might be able to fend some of this back off, specifically on the C point. However, no, not successful. EU holds their own and once again get themselves back onto the right footing here, but still with some points to make up, and thankfully it's not going to be too long of a process to make those up, as they've been able to deny any recap so far from LG, as they are also trying to kind of hyper-prioritize that C point as a staging ground for themselves. They'll at least have one of their members go over towards A, but EU has realized what's going on here, so they're going to chase their own triple cap and get aggressive now on the A point.
I love that response from E United, kind of like we mentioned earlier, not necessarily the biggest slayers or the biggest objective leaders, but making the plays they need to when they need to is the highlight for E United, and we kind of see them doing it right now, catching up only about 10 points back now, but they have that double cap, so the lead could be flipped into their favor at any moment.
1-1 as both teams are very much deadlocked. LG trying to snipe away control of B, but cannot stay on the hill consistently enough. So you're going to see Charmander work his way forward, getting some great assistance from his teammates as well. Apollo comes down. Charmander locks in a collection agency before he finally goes down to Crazy. He's on the retreat from the B point, but it's all been worth it here for E United. A trip cap for however temporarily they get it. A is quickly sniped back away from LG. Once again, they need some type of staging ground to play from, and this, unfortunately for them, is going to have to be it. The good news is there's a railgun that spawns here, so they're going to be able to pick that up just at the right timing and use that gun's power to be able to negotiate control over B.
Yeah, United definitely reads the situation, though. Suppress going to be playing with his food a little bit, too. They're going to be eaten up. But the trade manages to be successful, so a nice job from United just contesting the advantage that Luminosity Gaming briefly had. And we see United bouncing right back. Charmander now having the railgun, trying to 1v1 Vexy. The help comes through from Luminosity, but in the background, United has managed to cap 2 hills and will be continuing to attempt to extend their lead.
United as well continuing to stay aggressive as they end up going for the extremities of the map on A and C. Once more, they're leaving a window open for their C to get back capped and for a very stable 2-cap situation to be set up from LG. Might have been a bit too aggressive from United as well. Yes, they've got the A point securely locked away. LG does not seem to have too much of an interest in taking it for themselves, so they're just going to sit here, lock in on this 2-cap and play defense until a window opens where they can maybe go over and decap A to stop the point gain entirely from United to allow this comeback to happen a bit more quickly. That opportunity is going to surface right now as Vexy jumps in, will quickly steal away the A hill. As well, neither of their own being lost as of this point. We're going to see Vexy make a return down to B. United just abandoned their conquest on C entirely and went back to capture A, only to get slammed in the face with a bat as soon as they leave that very same point.
Yeah, Vexy getting shot and dropping down into the perfect position as E United was just pushing for that B hill. So LG on a bit of a rally right now, shoring up the difference, just 12 points back. And again, looking to overtake. A nice trade going to come through, stop that aggression from E United. So E United struggling to fight back currently, but are able to take this B hill, and we'll see. All right, and with that A secure, E United is back, but barely, as they are just a few points ahead in this map 3 dom.
Yeah, just when the lead was about to flip hands as well, so a bit frustrating for LG considering all the effort they've put in, especially considering that Apollo now using that bat is going to be able to fend off anyone trying to challenge from the inside of our big C point. That goes handily over towards E United, and even worse, no one was left behind to defend A, and the spawns were staggered enough to where E United could come in and take that for themselves too. So much effort from LG, so much work to try and tie this game up, only for it all to come crashing down due to another triple cap that is gained from E United here. And even if the triple cap is destabilized, this consistent 2-cap is going to cost LG so much in the long run here because of E United running themselves ahead yet again.
Yeah, I really think, you know, E United's strongest characteristic is their playmaking, being able to make the clutch plays when they need to, not even necessarily clutching out series, but just clutching out the play that they need to make. We saw the triple cap after LG had mounted the comeback, and now Luminosity has to essentially rinse and repeat the comeback again as E United has managed to extend that lead for the time being.
Reese's will run up and battle his way into a frag versus Apollo. Other members of the team going to have to step up, though, to get the rest of the work done, but they'll succeed in doing so. Decap, the only point that United now has to claim, and again, another triple cap has been gained by the members of LG as they realize the mistake they made in allowing the last one from United to go through, and are quickly looking to correct course to get themselves back into control of this series here. Grad as well, of course, with the rails, running his own gauntlet at the moment with those, nicely played, as he's gone 3 for 3 so far. Should be one more shot left in the chamber. He's going to miss it, unfortunately. Thankfully, Crazies will be able to fend off Charmander, the other challenger, on the A point, but it comes again at a cost of having to fight for control over C. Not enough players here to defend it. E United will take it, however, temporarily, though, as we are going to see all of the respawns from LG route their way into here, but Charmander again giving us a show, a beautiful double kill as he fends off those very same rotates and is now establishing Overwatch to stop the B point from being stolen away. Not going to be so easy, though, as you can see, quite a few members of the team on LG's side still trying to get into the way of that.
Big trade there, actually, from Swooty being able to take down the Bat Wielder. And LG, like we had mentioned, mounted the comeback, but then immediately E United answers back with the double cap for themselves. A lot of slaying power coming both out of Charmander and Suppress currently, really allowing their teammates to kind of work around them. Apollo getting that hill time, and Swooty just kind of doing what he needs to keep his team in it, as the double cap now for E United is going to stand, and they are nearing the 700 points needed to win.
About 75 to go here for E United, and they will lock in their victory. LG is not so far behind either, only about a 50-point difference between LG and E United, so a flip over towards a triple cap could very well change up the state of this game. It does look like, though, that E United has gotten a great grasp on the rotates, at least the more recent ones that we were getting out of LG. Let them into C, let them take that control, but then immediately pounced on them as they felt that they were secure. So stealing that right back for their own purposes. A has been reset again, but that's no consequence to E United as they're only about 10 seconds away with a 2-cap from controlling this map. And Charmander as well really has gone on a run here up to the collection agency with 10 kills in his pocket. We'll make him 11 with that pickup there. And in just about 5 seconds or so, E United is going to be locking in their second map of the series here as they take the lead now at 2-1.
Charmander really stepping it up for E United. That's his, I believe, third collection agency that we've seen him take on stream.
Very
so
nice.
yeah, that's been a huge difference maker of Charmander just not going down, being able to continue to exert pressure on the map. So well played from E United, able to bounce back after that map 1 loss and regain to take map number 3 and the lead in this series.
Frag's really making up the difference here. As you can see, a much greater overall average for the E United roster, just able to win out those larger fights much more consistently. LG, I think, focusing a bit more on some of the trickery with trying to bait E United players into fights that they knew they could win, but generally speaking, just happened too little, and then in the actual kind of just overall, your average 1v1, it just was generally going over to E United far too often.
Yeah, I really like E United's ability to kind of be unshaken in the matchups as well. We saw a few triple caps come through from Luminosity, but the E United response was always on point and in some cases stronger. So that really gave them a great advantage there on Atlantis. But then, of course, we are going to Impact King of the Hill coming up next. So E United lost that first King of the Hill, but like we mentioned, it was so close, and it really came down to the power weapon control at the very end during that final rotation. So we'll see if E United was able to clean things up, make those micro adjustments within the series, and if they can close out the best of 5 here on this map.
Bit more of a direct confrontation this time, obviously, as we'll be going just down to that single hill to play for, and E United pretty much immediately walk themselves onto it here as they clean up the initial spawn from LG. 3 members, everybody except Crazies ends up going down inside of the first 10 seconds or so, so Crazies can't even postulate being able to jump out himself. He has to wait for the correct time to do so, and even he ends up going down when that time finally approaches here. So it's just full-on control for E United so far. Not even a single kill up on the board, I don't think, for them as of yet. No, nothing being claimed here for the Luminosity roster as of yet here. This is just outright E United as they take easy control of the first 3 quarters of the opening hill, and still have not lost a single player. This is now 11 or 12 kills without a single response so far from the LG side.
Yeah, absolutely huge. When Swooty writes that book on the mental game that he
what
was
is going
talking
on?
about earlier, I mean, they are just on a roll. I think E United is one of those teams that takes losses very personally, and if they are on fire, they will stay on fire as Suppress secures the double kill and looks for the triple. And there's the killing spree. Still, only death is for Swooty on E United, but the Kaleidoscope comes through for Suppress. 74 points to 0 now in this King of the Hill.
And again, the LG have a single kill. Okay, a second one now, as they did find another pickup recently, but just the trades, the absolute ratio happening right now inside of this game here for E United, as they're going to take 2 kills in a row, it seems, not a single point going on the board from LG. Finally, they might be able to sneak off a few points here from the looks of things, but no! They've denied it outright! Another Kaleidoscope. This time it's Swooty picking it up. What is E United doing? They've been activated, it seems, on this 4th map.
And Luminosity picked this map. This was their pick for the picks and bans, and E United says, oh no, you made a mistake. There's LG running 4 deep, attempting to get a point on the hill. There's the first 5 points going to come through, but E United sitting on the biggest cushion we've seen here in the SPS summer season.
Yeah, and they're just going to keep building on it too. Even more kills going into their favor. This is an absolute fall from grace as far as LG is concerned. They need to step it up hugely. This is a completely different series, it looks like, almost from the way that this game is being played right now. Continuing to see E United light up the kill feed in their favor here, and they are shooting forward, continuing to take more and more of a lead.
All right, so it looks like there might have been a brief issue. We'll have to see if that's what was happening there. We'll wait to get more of a word, but I mean, regardless of whatever the restart might have been for, E United is clearly coming out with a passion to end this series right here, right now.
Yeah, no, it definitely seems like it's the case there. I mean, like we said, we saw like 15 to 20 kills, I think, go onto the board in the favor of E United before a single one was claimed from Luminosity. So wouldn't be surprised to find out if like someone from Luminosity like disconnected or was like having issues there, and that explains why that matchup was going partially the way it did.
At least towards the end, it looked like all members from Luminosity were moving, so maybe it was like a brief, beginning of the issue, someone wasn't able to connect or loaded late into the lobby, potentially. But regardless, I think E United's still looking very strong, because even if it's like a 3v4, you expect at least someone to die more than 0 times. so still a really solid start for E United. We'll have to at least get clarification on the restart, find out what was going on. But man, what a close series. E United, I really like, at least, even to get a little more esoteric about the game, just their passion, the way they're able to bounce back after the map 1 loss has been looking very solid. I really like that out of E United, and I think it bodes well for at least their future matches against some of those really tough opponents.
Yeah, definitely the case, showing that they can rebound inside of those tough situations. Definitely the makings of a great team, to be sure, but we're going to have to wait and see now as we get ourselves back in game if E United can shoot themselves forward here and continue to hold as strong of an advantage as they had when we started this game the last time.
Yeah, so it looks like it was a case of players just being, difficulty loading in or not necessarily ready right off of the whip. E United just wanting to get right into it. So as we see a little bit more of a back and forth here at the start of this one, but E United still coming out on top strong with the opening break.
Yeah, continuing to flood a whole flurry of kills into their own favor. Crazies will be one of the first in a while to be able to trade a second frag back, but he too, Ball at least, is going to be run out just a moment later. You can see Charmander ready to go on a run. He's kind of floating in the portal verse there, so he needed to take out that other one before he could move forward, but also had to support his teammates after, unfortunately, he lost his window of opportunity to get aggressive there and ended up falling back and away from that. United still able to get a large majority of points, though, on this opening hill. They're going to push it up to right around 30, probably, before it either expires or LG wipe out the presence from Charmander, currently sitting on top of it.
Yeah, and if I was LG, I'd be even a little bit afraid to restart this one, especially if United is still this on fire. They might, even come out more motivated after being forced to restart this one, but as we can see, a little bit more even footing here. Ooh, is a great play by Vexy, able to take down Charmander.
Nicely done from Vexy. They realized the portal hop may have happened as he saw the player with the bat jump through, just didn't see where he went to, so quickly spins tail and realizes that it was to his back, and it was able to avoid that fate and take him down with a pistol instead. Vexy finds a target as he picks up the bat for a second time, and this time is going to be way more successful with it. Nearly able to run for the kaleidoscope, but gets fended off by Smooty at the final seconds of play. They're allowing for him to maintain control over this hill. Obviously very weak in doing so, but he's going to be able to keep the lead as a result of that. Smooty as well, stealing away the bat. Still should be 1 or 2 swings remaining on it. Yeah, 1 swing left, so he'll jump back in, lock it in, and then finally go down to Grad.
All right, so nice plays there from Luminosity, working their way back into this one, and I think a big thing that they should be focusing on is stopping some of this E United momentum. We saw it, before the restart, E United coming very hot, coming in, just explosive with their start onto this map, but LG doing a good job of battling back at this point.
Definitely the case as LG continues to not only hold on, but actually takes the lead away from E United as well. Much more of a competitive affair, much more of what we come to expect out of this matchup, given the way the previous 3 maps had played out as well here. So good to see LG back in fighting shape after that brief reset we did do before. E United, in the meanwhile here, does have current hill controls the lead. Look like it's actually going to teeter-totter a little bit as LG goes on a tear. Vexy, specifically working with Bala, wipes out pretty much the entire roster from E United, so that'll certainly flip the hill yet again and give our lead a flip as well. Once again with LG controlling things as they try to take the large majority of the remaining time on this hill with about 20 seconds left on it.
Yep, Vala just tunnel visioning maybe a little bit with that sniper rifle, is going to get 3 tapped and go down while he was trying to hold that hill. That is going to give E United an opportunity to rack up some of these points of scrap time before the hill is going to rotate, but Suppress, Swooty, both kill leaders for E United right now, doing a very good job of maintaining that pressure and keeping LG at bay from this next hill.
Plasma trying to use it here, as you can see Smooty with it in hand, but can't line up the angles needed to really punish the members of LG deeper in the site, so they'll continue to maintain hill control. Might be for a bit more of a delicate period of time here, as you can see Smooty finally with the window of opportunity he needs to push forward, knock out 3 members of the opposing squad here. Bat's in front of him, but it's going to cause too much of an animation delay for him to pick it up in the middle of this fight. Needs to finish it first, and thankfully will be able to beat out Vexy in a bit of a portal war right there, but as he works himself forward, another member of the team tries to challenge him, and he holds off against that as well. In fact, another member of United has the bat in hand now, which means they should be pretty well and secured on this hill for the remaining 20 seconds.
That's what I love out of E United. They are the most consistent playmakers I've seen in the SPS so far. They are able to turn it on exactly when they need to, and we see a huge hill hold from them here. Charmander now picking up the bat, gonna rotate through and look to continue this pressure on LG.
Let's go for a hop up here for some free shots, but it won't work out. Bala is ready for the challenge and ends up fending him off. That should be a 75% bat charge going over into the hands of LG now. If I was following that correctly, they've also got sniper control, as you've seen most recently there from Crazy. So a lot of power in the hands of LG, and they're absolutely going to use it here to bully their way onto this hill and start to battle back for the lead. As it's going to stay neck and neck between both of these teams, which you shouldn't really be surprised by at this point, given the way the first King of the Hill went. LG trying to chase this lead and see if they can negotiate another map for themselves to take us to a full 5-map series.
Yeah, I think LG's advantage right now is just playing so many players close to that hill that E United, the approach they're taking as Bala able to pick up a huge triple kill to secure this hill is and actually take the lead here with that snipe and the plasma in the back pocket. But LG playing so tightly knit as a team, I think, is really making things hard for E United to break some of these setups once they get their feet planted.
United indeed trying to rely on that to keep themselves in control over the matchup, but unfortunately the plan has not worked out as strongly as it has in previous maps. LG starting to push ahead, it seems, as United calling it away on this most recent hill here, choosing just not to play into its later portion, given the limited time on it. They choose instead to prioritize the new one, and you can see that that result has worked out pretty well for them. 3 kills most recently seen on the feed to wipe out the resistance from LG, forcing Bala to just sit here and kind of wait. Can't really do anything, unfortunately. He's on his own. Need a teammate to distract so he could do that exact move right there. Works his way in, knocks out 2. 1 still remains on the hill, but is so low, is not going to be able to survive for that much longer. United took the lead away while this was going on, yes, but they're already going to lose it, as LG has fully taken this hill's control for themselves, as they're going to try and take the later half worth of points.
Yeah, such a well-executed push from Luminosity. I mean, we saw Bala just being patient with the bat in hand and waited for that perfect time to get aggressive as the frag-tastic and the double kill comes through for him, but 3 dead for Luminosity gives E United an opportunity to start answering back on this hill rotation.
See Charmander specifically sneaking over towards this one. Needs to get himself a clean fight to start it off, and that's exactly what he gets, especially because Suppress finds another kill too. This is the initiation that the members of United needed to lock in a hill for themselves and have it long-term as well. Not like what we saw in the last hill where, yeah, they got it for the first 30 seconds, but were immediately wiped off it because power weapon control was still in the hands of the players from LG. Speaking of power weapons, they should be spawning relatively soon here, which means that if members of LG are able to control that again, they could be right back in the controlling position they were on the previous few minutes of play here. That's exactly what will happen, although just not necessarily with the power weapons being used here. They're able to bully their way back into it. We can see Suppress with the plasma trying to reinsert himself into the fight, but LG are just way too well put together right now. They're going to consistently stay in control here. A few members of United able to sneak in and cause this hill to go neutral at least, so not a massive point gain being found here for the members of LG. And in fact, after everything is said and done, United does come back in, take it for themselves, and is going to lock in a little bit more of a secure lead here as they're up by about 25 seconds over LG now.
Yeah, a really good adjustment on that hill from E United. It was a hill they struggled with in the past with Luminosity, but they were able to answer back, and here's a nice double kill. The bat now in the hands of Swooty as he continues to make plays for E United, and they have a pretty strong hold on this hill currently with, I mean, plenty of time remaining to rack up these points.
Few players from LG trying to pinch out this hill control as you see them pushing 2 players from either end of it. The strategy will actually work too. Swooty kind of losing himself there in the final seconds of play for it, trying to hunt down at least one member of the team with a bat, but is not going to be able to do so. So excellently done by the members of LG as they're able to piece apart that setup once again from United when it was in a pretty strong shape to begin with, and now take some more points for themselves. But will they be able to chase enough of an advantage? That's the big question, and with Grad helping out, they should certainly be able to do so. Beautiful double from him. That's going to lock in these last 10 seconds of play here, forcing United to focus on the next hill instead, where members of LG are already waiting.
So here we see Grad still getting the scrap time, the final points, but when it's neck and neck between these two teams like this, you are going to fight for every second you can get. And now here comes a pretty tough hill. We'll have to see if United, Charmander getting caught out of it there, Suppress again, but is going to be able to make that trade. 2 down for LG, but this hill being such a tough fight to hold, This could be big, and E United potentially could end it right here, or they will be just shy, but it'll be a nice lead if they can hold the majority of this hill.
Just like our last King of the Hill here, E United realizing that the lead they have built up over the process of the last 9 minutes of play is not going to be enough to guarantee victory in the final minute and a half. So they're going to need to try and put their best foot forward, try and put as much prowess onto the table as possible to keep this lead locked in. They cannot allow for LG to run it back again, but they're not really going to have much of a choice. LG taking the lead away, but with only one player on point, United trying to stop the flow. They'll take the lead away just as quickly here with only 7 seconds remaining on the second to last hill. The final hill spawning in 3 seconds here, and United needs to fight to get the remaining 25 seconds they need to close out the game. However, LG will stand in the way, but it won't seem to be much of a force at this point here. Even trades going back and forth, 2 players down from each side. Bala, though, puts another one down into the grave as Swooty goes down. That'll lock in control from LG, as they're as well just 1 second away from taking the lead. It's flipped again, 226 to 224 as LG is racing up to the 250 needed to close this down.
We see 2 members from E United trying to approach from the high ground, but Bala in this hill is an absolute stalwart against the push from E United. They're at 239 points, 240 now, just need 10 remaining as they have a really nice hold on this hill. It looks like history may repeat itself for E United in King of the Hill as they fall to LG yet again.
And unfortunately, EU just not having enough power to get themselves back on that final hill right there. It didn't really seem like they had any power up and control to play off, but we should have had one spawning, I think, potentially inside of that last minute or two there, depending on the way the spawns ended up working out. But either way, United just not able to work it out in their favor, not able to get that reinitiation they needed to get onto the point and trigger OT. So LG just good planning, got themselves to that hill way ahead of time, and as well read into the rotation rates from United. So they were able to deny that, get their lead back, and lock in the 250 points.
I really think it is just LG's play style really complements that King of the Hill objective mode. Having one objective to worry about, they really just stack that hill with as many players as possible, and teams who are used to, you know, throwing one player in on a flank and then trying to wrap around end up just losing based off of like mass alone. There's just too many hit points in the hill to be able to chew through it.
I think not only that too, but United maybe like underestimating the amount of fight they'd be getting on certain hills, the cohesion of strategy that would come together from LG, just like how quickly some of their teammates were getting slayed as well. LG was really on point this game too, with like 3-shotting people and 2-shotting people with the BR as well. So there was members of the team from United where they thought they may have been able to stay in the fight for a little bit longer, but they were just getting deleted so quickly, like that pinch we saw at one point where they were getting pushed from either side with 2 members of LG. They just lost so many players so quickly they thought they were going to hold on, and then ultimately like, oh wait, everybody's dead. Now the hill's been flipped, and we just have to wait. We just have to let them hold it for 20 seconds and wait for the next hill. It was moments like that that allowed LG to, just like our last King of the Hill, like slowly bleed their way back into it, essentially.
Yeah, and I think too it was the adjustment from LG to really focus on the slaying power. Kind of looking at the stats there, much more even, especially from the previous domination game type that we saw. So we have our first Game 5 of the day. We went from 3-0 sweeps to a Game 5 nail-biter, and we're going to be going to a team deathmatch on Abyss. And again, the team deathmatch was just as close as these King of the Hills, being E United taking the victory 60 to 54. So we'll have to see how this one plays out. Again, Crag was a Luminosity map pick, so E United able to sneak that one away from them, and this is an E United pick here on Abyss, so maybe they'll be able to feel a little bit more comfortable here on this map 5.
This is where the fate is decided, at least for this week, for both Luminosity and E United. Can E United lock in the victory, continue to show themselves as the strongest team inside of the league right now by maintaining a 3-0 record, or will Luminosity finally break their super unfortunate streak the past few weeks here of coming within just inches of victory both times, ultimately faltering, though, in those final few moments of gameplay, not allowing for them to take a map just yet, but definitely being one of the top teams here in our 0-2 pool.
So, and what's interesting too is Luminosity at the very least doing Xset a favor, forcing this to a Game 5, because the map win percentage is the reason that E United is at the top right now, but this Game 5 can potentially knock them down a peg, depending on the results from that T1 versus Xset matchup, which is our final match of the day. Xset also a team that can potentially go 3-0, so we'll have to see how it all shakes out in the standings at the very end, because those map wins are almost just as important as the series wins in these cases when your record is tied.
Yeah, absolutely the case. Either way, both of these these teams, though, looking to try and forge their own legacies. United, like they were talking about, like saying that they're not the top dogs or that they're not the best on paper or whatever. They're going to prove themselves wrong on that if they can lock in the 3-0 for this week, as we have seen some of even the more expected top-end teams like T1 and like SSG already come very close, if not already suffer losses, and they've got a chance to maybe surge themselves ahead and lock in a good position in the league here if they can get this 3-0 done.
Yeah, Luminosity, though, one of the teams that, I mean, a statistic from the previous seasons is, at least in the winter season, they were also the team that forced the most map 5s. Again, falling short in most of them, but continuing that trend here today. So maybe this could be kind of the icebreaker for them, kind of punching through that glass ceiling, so to speak, and maybe closing out one of these game 5s finally, because in the previous season, I think they finished with a record on the lower side. I believe they even faced relegation. So they forced the most game 5s, but also in turn lost the most game 5s. So we'll have to see if they can turn it around here in the summer season, but it looks like we are loading into the TDM on Abyss, so we will find a winner in this map regardless.
Let's get into it, ladies and gentlemen. All of that strategy we've been talking about before, teams trying to walk themselves into each other and route each other out. It's a much lessened extent now, as it's all about frags in our final map of the day. Since it is TDM, of course, we'll just let this first fight get out of the way. It's always a little bit chaotic, a bit harder to follow, but at the end of it, United does end up topping it just barely, though. 3-2 is going to be their advantage. We see them also having power weapon control to play with the rockets in the hands of Charmander, as he just most recently knocked out Vexy there.
I love that. The look-away pass from Charmander with those rockets. Knew his life was being threatened, so let the rocket fly. Managed to secure the kill and get out with his life. A very, very big play from him, but the score is tied. So a great job from LG of keeping things even here. Charmander able to find another kill with the rockets. We know 2 members from LG are approaching from that angle he was looking at, but he will back away as a few of his teammates are on the respawn. Spawned in now, though, and he is still hunting for that kill. Manages to find Bala on the stairs, going to take down Crazies as well. So a nice start for Charmander.
Credit to LG there for avoiding him for as long as they did. It looked like that was the intention, but to try and stay out of his way and bleed down the time a little bit, but ultimately was not going to be able to do so. However, now that that weapon is gone, you can see the immediate confidence coming out from LG. So many more kills flurrying in as a result of the fact they don't have to worry about getting one-shot suddenly by a rocket, and it's made an immediate difference on the scoreboard too. Most recently, of course, with Vexy's kill, we're going to see LG take the lead away outright, but that's going to teeter-totter for a little bit here while we try to find ourselves a true leader out of these next few moments. We might not even get one either way. Both of these teams are constantly going back and forth on frag. Swooty most recently grabbing at least one member of the LG roster. Suppress picking up another one as well for United to establish a bit of an unstable lead for themselves here. Swooty trying to get in the way of that, but he gets found out way too far in advance. So that with one other kill puts LG back into a tie position that Charmander is going to destroy there with that nice melee shot against Crazies.
Yeah, these teams just going blow for blow, back and forth right now. I mean, the scoreline could not be closer. It's just got to give props to both teams for keeping each other in it. I think it's just going to come down to who is hitting the most shots, because the angles they're taking, staying spread out, looking for these long-range engagements, and then pushing when they have power weapons has led this to be very back and forth.
Yeah, very much a stalemate. We're thinking players are getting away with clean kills every once in a while, but they're immediately being traded back the second we tend to believe that. So finally seeing LG get away, it seems, with a 2K of their own. And again, just as I bring it up, Suppress is able to snipe out Crazies. Apollo adds one more on top of that. Power weapons should be coming up at some point in the next 30 to 40 seconds here. So that's going to be the next point that both of these teams really have to change up their fate, is at the moment it's United with a very delicate amount of control. So LG knows they need to try and negotiate control of these power weapons somehow, or at minimum just avoid their wrath, get them out of the hands of the members of United as quickly as possible here, as they are going a little bit off here as of the past minute or so. They seem to have gotten a good lock onto the spawns of the members of LG, and they've been able to take them out with good efficiency. Or Vexy, though, chaining some of that right back at the members of United as he gets a double kill. The score sits at 27 now to 22, and unfortunately for LG, EU walk themselves right into the hands of the Rockets again, with already 2 of them being able to claim kills.
Yeah, United just doing a super good job of right before those rockets are coming up, they get 3 down for Luminosity, 2 down for them again. So United doing a great job of just keeping them on those rotations, not allowing them to be 4 up and get into these fights, as Charmander able to secure another rocket kill, another killing spree for him. Again, the man is on a spree this series.
Gonna try and go for one more, but actually won't even fire off that final shot. That does give Crazies an opportunity to get at least one rocket out. However, either way, just because of the power weapon control and the efficiency that we've seen come out from that, United, 7 out of 33 of their kills have been claimed from a rocket launcher right now. Just to give you context as to how much that's helped them out, that's almost exactly the lead that they have going. So it gives you a good picture of how they've been able to control it on top of things like excellent map controls we're seeing now here from Swoody, able to run around and knock out Vexy.
Yeah, United just needs to maintain this level of energy, this level of momentum. I think Charmander is poised to do just that. Apollo picking up some of the slack in the background as well, but a really good job of United letting everyone on the team be a threat. Bala finally going to take down Charmander. Swoody, though, looking to get revenge there as Crazies does take him out. So United still having the 9-kill lead. Make that 10. Is it going to be 12? No, Grad going to be taking down Suppress there.
United having a bit of trouble with a few of the fights they've taken more recently here. Charmander as well, a bit of an awkward encounter versus Vexy, waiting for the right angle to actually engage him, but even so, will still be chased away by another one of the members of LG before he can get himself back to safety. United holding on to a bit more of a delicate lead now. Once again, when power weapons are not in play, it does very much seem like LG is able to take the mantle on things here and really rocket themselves forward. As look at this, it's been a whole series of like 6 to 7 kills on the kill feed without a single response from United, and because of that, the lead has diminished to a massive extent. Only a 2-kill lead here. You've got Grad still hopping around, jumping on the members of United, well, they're completely unaware of it as well. United very much need to stabilize and do it soon, because they're only 1 kill away from dropping their lead, and they've just done it. Crazies and Grad working together. Grad's got himself the collection agency, a triple kill most recently. Just like that, LG again, they refuse to give up in every single matchup they play here at the SPS, and they're about to run the gauntlet back one more time to give them finally a first match victory.
It's the perfect time for Luminosity to hit that hot streak because the power weapons are going to be spawning around that 4-minute mark. So E United needs to look for an advantage, needs to secure some of these frags, get LG off of these positions so that they can get those power weapons that essentially their lead has hinged on throughout this map 5.
Rockets coming up, I can see it on the screen in about 10 seconds here, so big priority for both members or both teams. We'll try to use that to negotiate control over this matchup. To some extent, Ball's using it to bait along with Grad. That strategy works out brilliantly. More kills on the board from LG. They did get the Rockets too, although first Rocket's going to be a miss here from Crazies following it through. He's got the SMG. Will be able to take one down, but that's sitting behind a lot of kills coming out from E United, and also Suppress able to pick up the Rockets yet again here. 3 shots left in it here. They could make up the difference at the end of the day. Remember, they've gotten 7 kills with this thing already. They can push it up to 10. That'll be even better, but for now, this remains neck and neck as both teams trade blows once more to put it up to 53-53.
There's Bala trying to aggress onto E United. Suppress going to have to use those rockets to secure that kill. 55-54 now. Again, we are playing to 60. This is map number 5. Whoever wins this one wins the series, but the bat play from Suppress going to come up huge, get them the 2-kill lead, but he is taken down by Grad in return. And we are still a difference of 1 kill makes up everything. United just needs 2 now to take the series.
Apollo and his teammate here are going to have to be careful. They're getting pinched out from the backside. Thankfully, it looks like other members of the team are going to be able to distract away from it here as they're just trying to play defense, trying to fend off any challengers against their lead here. And it'll work out as E United brings it back under their control. Once again, so close as Luminosity comes within just a hair's reach of being able to tie that up and take the lead for themselves. But no, E United take the cake at the end of the day, and they will win this series 3-2, giving LG another super unfortunate loss at the end of the day.
Another Game 5 loss for LG. Super heartbreaking, but they were right there in it. A great showing from them, being able to mount that comeback despite being down, what was I think about 10 or 11 kills around that 40 kill mark. So Luminosity does a great job to work their way back into it, but it is those clutch plays that E United has been able to replicate throughout this entire series and throughout this entire season that leads them to remain undefeated so far in the SPS.
And in this map, the kind of obvious X factor for them, power weapons. We brought it up like multiple times throughout the course of play there, but it very much was the difference maker. United without power weapons didn't really seem to have a great capability to push, make plays, or at least have them go off successfully against the members of LG. But with it, they controlled every single facet of the game, and they used it to get themselves back into it more than once, as we saw specifically with the Rockets.
Yeah, a huge back and forth here, huge swings in the series. I think Luminosity, if I'm looking at them as a roster, their King of the Hill is so solid. They're able able to take these game types off a lot of top teams, but they just need to shore up a couple other things. Even in the TDM, it's still neck and neck between them and a lot of their opponents. They just need to work or apply their same strategies, same teamwork to either that domination or the TDMs and be able to close those ones out. Because I think they have a rock-solid strategy in the King of the Hills. They're able to get a lot of victories there, but you know, just a couple of other small things in these other game types. E United doing a great job of keeping their heads in the game, and like you kind of mentioned, they're, you know, maybe they know that weakness of, hey, we aren't really, or we're contested more easily when we don't have control of those power weapons, so let's make sure we put a big focus, a big emphasis on those, and it led to a victory in this 5-game series. So well played to E United, able to clutch this one out.
I think a much better job at kind of fending off the aggression from LG over the course of this series too. There was quite a few times where United would straight up stop a push from LG. Like all 4 players would try to make a push. I think we saw it happen a few times in this map we're watching now. They would try to make a play to the inside of it, all 4 players would get wiped. And I think this is a great example of it. Yeah, right here. All 4 players dead on the field, not able to do anything about that. We almost never saw LG pull off that same exact thing against E United. And that shows us on the kill feed too why that was the case. I think for this very same map, we were seeing E United kind of dominate on the kill feed. And that's a large part of it, because even when they made pushes that didn't go like that successfully, they were calling them off before they committed too heavily to it and lost the entire roster. They would pull people back, they would reset, make sure that they could at least distract LG while they were trying to get onto their next objective and waiting for their teammates to spawn. Meanwhile, LG had no problem forcing themselves into an engagement, but unfortunately, on quite a few occasions, that cost them their entire roster and gave United that, you know, 10 seconds or so of just free map control, being able to do whatever the heck they wanted.
Yeah, United doing a good job of, even if that pressure was coming at them, saying, hey, at least we need a few of us to stay alive so that we can keep some presence on the map, whereas LG was very much an all or nothing type play, or especially around some of those objective game types, game modes. But E United, I think the big story here is, you know, it's up from here. They have, hey, great start,
it
guys.
Has to be, right?
Great start, guys. The next 3 weeks you have, or sorry, the next 3 matches you have Space Station, XSET, T1. Not sure if that's the exact order, but even one of those weekends though is a super weekend, so they'll have to play, I believe it's T1 and XSET back to back. So it's going to be a tough uphill battle, but I think the saving grace at the very least is with this strong start for E United, if they can win a couple of those against the big dogs of the SPS, they'll be in a great position towards that grand final.
Yeah, I know we've been talking a lot about LG, but to harken again on E United once more, I think that this was a good testing ground to see how the rest of those matches are going to go, and they've been able to survive it. They've been able to push their way through the gauntlet of LG. Now they just need to kind of prepare themselves for those other teams as well, as they might be another step or 2 up from the performance they got today as well out of LG.
Yeah, I think the big thing, if I was a United, to keep in mind is that Luminosity also took Space Station to a Game 5. So while we kind of talk about, wow, Space Station came out so strong, looked really dominant against T1, Luminosity then took Space Station to that Game 5. They also took E United to the Game 5. So I think it's still like too early to call, or maybe not even to call a best team, but all of these teams are so close and so related in skill that it's really coming down to the performance on the day for a lot of these teams. So, you know, one more match today, and it's a heavy hitter. I'm excited to get into this one. So it's going to be XSET versus T1 coming to you guys after this short break. Stay tuned.
Nice play. Woo!
All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Splitgate Pro Series Summer Season presented by Prime Gaming, and we are about to get into our final match of the day, and it's between two of the big dogs, the heavy hitters of the league. It is Xset going up against T1. Now, just to kind of throw some stats into the ring, give you guys an example of how not only neck and neck are these two teams, but how impressive the stats are overall. We're going to look at a player comparison between a member of each squad, App on T1 versus Mason on Xset. So in the KDA department, or at least overall, 3 out of these 4 categories going in favor of Mason. But really, the story here is how high these stats are compared to a lot of the players in the league. So Mason, a huge KDA above 2. The KD in TDM's down a little bit, but I mean, you look at either one of these rosters, and it's more like they're just fighting for the kills. It's like, you know, it's a scarcity when you have players who are this strong. So not even a negative aspect, but they're both under 1 in that one. The average kills plus assists per game in the 30s is another kind of monstrous stat. And then while doing all of this slaying, both of these players able to average above like that 100-point objective marker. So App taking the favorite side on this one at 146, but Mason only 10 points back. The other thing that is tough to really quantify and show on a statistic is Xset is in the top 3 in 8 different categories. So whether that be objective time, kills plus assists, TDM total kills, across the board, they are in the top 3 of 8 of those different stats. So that's probably why Mason's having trouble finding kills in the TDM is because his teammates are taking all of them.
I mean, even just with his apparent duo, it would appear in game as well, Maddie, those two, when placed together in any sort of situation, have been absolutely killing it in their capability to not only take fights and like kind of come out on the winning end of it, but then continue to control it. As you usually have those few other members of your opponent team jumping on you after the fact, they still tend to win those fights too. And that's when it starts to get a bit more ridiculous, especially in a TDM setting, because that's generally where things will just go 1-to-1 at the end of the day, but they push it that extra step further too, which is really an impressive thing about Exet.
And like you mentioned, in that duo, Mason is the newcomer to this roster. I know at the first day we were kind of talking about how, oh, you know, Exet might have some work to do. They have to find their footing with their new teammate. I think they hit the ground running in that aspect. So he has been falling in with the squad extremely well. But here is your map rotation for this upcoming series. So we'll be going to Helix in map number 1 on King of the Hill, Carmen Station for that team deathmatch map number 2, Lava Well Domination for map 3, map number 4 King of the Hill on Impact, and TDM on Crag if we need that game 5. And you know, I'm really excited essentially to see just even the initial breakout on this first map, this first game mode, because these two teams, while they are very dominant, I think we were surprised at how Space Station looked so good against T1, but then how Luminosity also looked so good against Space Station. So there's still a lot of questions or a lot of excitement around seeing the different matchups between these teams in the SPS. So between these two essentially legacy teams, I'm excited to see where the dust settles at the end of the day.
I think Carbon Station for our second map is going to be really, really fun to watch. It's another one of those maps where you kind of, in a TDM setting at least, you're more likely to create like two small bunkers that both teams will try to hide inside, especially once they take the lead. And it's going to be a process of seeing who can crack that the best, who can get these 4-kill wipes and be able to take a serious point gain as a result of that. Very excited to get into that one, but we've got another map before we get to that, of course, and I think it's getting started right now as we get into our King of the Hill first. That's going to be here on Helix.
Yeah, excited to see this one again. A little bit of a slow start, or a patient start rather, not necessarily slow, as we see Exet getting early control of this hill. Mason getting the double kill, wants to pad those stats that we saw earlier, and a good start for him in that regard.
Rails are under the control of T1, but a very clutch nade throw there is actually going to stop JP from picking up the kill he thought he would get through his open portal. But unfortunate for him there, as it's another charge of the rail gone. We missed if the first one was successful or not, but either way, Exet is currently controlling things, at least for that first half of the opening hill. Maddie as well, along with Luck, they're able to run a bit of a gauntlet for themselves, stealing the shotgun away, with Luck now having that in hands, and Huff as well, having picked up the rails. We've already seen what Huffe can utilize when he has control over power weapons. Excuse me, though, it's a little bit more about Luck right now, as he's moving in, shutting down most of the defenses here from T1 to give Exet a good control over the remaining few seconds on the hill.
I mean, just the reactions from Luck on that one, absolutely insane. Now we see Huff able to pick up a couple kills of his own, but Luck still on the spree, getting that double, just 3 away from the 10 streak at this point, and this has just really allowed his team to rack up this hill time. They're kind of spreading out, finding these picks across the map, and T1 really just kind of trouble finding their way in to the Exet control at this point.
Huff continuing to fire forward here, looking to see if he can take out any of the stragglers out in the open for T1 to leave just that one player on point, vulnerable, not able to realize their position so quickly, so Hypnos and App trade it back somewhat into their own favor, but with Luck as well picking up another kill, he's going to throw it into Limbo. Still ultimately allows for T1 to keep hill control because Jalen will hop back on it off of respawn, but that only serves to eliminate him, as Huff has the angle against him, jumps in to kill App, who I think was rotating into support, and now JP goes down also. Exet baits those members of T1 in, knocks them out, destabilizes, staggers to an extent their spawn routes, and now allows for them to take full hill control yet again. This is massively being played at the moment from Exet. The only part of this they screwed up was the transition to the next hill, but even so, they're still in the fight for it and can very easily take it, as I believe we just saw happen there. They're going to need to fight for it for some time, though, as there's a couple other members of T1 still trying to route their way towards it.
Yeah, it really seems like Exet has a methodical nature around controlling the spawns. We've seen this kind of staying on board with Luck's point of view, just the ability to predict these spawns where T1 is going to be approaching from has given them this map control that I think has taken T1 some time to catch up to, as we see 3 dead for T1 again. Exet is just kind of like opened their arms, and T1 is walking into them with these kills, so a really nice solid start for Exet here.
Exit taking nearly the entire duration of this hill. First 10 seconds or so went into the hands of T1, but ever since then, it's generally speaking been under the control of Exit. App's going to change up the fate, though, with a pistol. He hops in and steals away the last bits of control here. That's more than likely, again, though, because Exit had already started to rotate themselves over towards the next hill, and they just didn't have enough resources to keep themselves on that previous one. So they'll be jumping on it first. They will take that initial set of control, but as you saw there, App just picking up another kill versus Luck does flush them outside of it, and even worse, power weapon control was just lost. The fresh spawn here now going into the hands of the members of T1. However, the rails still controlled by Mason here. So while the shotgun did fall into Jalen's hands, with the rails, Exit's still probably going to be able to negotiate enough control to keep this hill under their banner.
Yeah, this is the hill we saw in the previous series that is so pivotal or so hard to break without power weapon control. So a nice focus from Exit to get those power weapons, but of course they are going to fall in that hill, which drops the railgun into the hands of App. Has one shot left, needs to make this one count as they finish up the final 10 seconds in this hill.
Shotgun definitely would have been the more desired pickup for this specific hill, so more than likely now just going to see T1 continue to flourish on top of this one. You can see Hypnos out in the open, already trying to cut off some of the rotates that are heading towards our next hill coming up in right now. But regardless, is not going to be able to stop the tide. Exit get a large majority of their own player count onto the hill. They'll take it for themselves, but keep in mind again, those power weapons still alive and well. Both of them, I believe, in fact, although we may have just seen the shotgun get close to running out of ammo. The rails as well, going to finally falter as the player holding them goes down, giving Exit back some control over this hill, but only for a few seconds here. Not enough for them to stay directly on top of it, as that's still being fought over.
Yeah, T1 did a nice job, though, of taking advantage of having those power weapons. We see them climb back in briefly up to 76 points, so down about 50 now. So a good job of them just kind of taking the opportunities they have and continuing to try to grind to get back into this one. But Exet really doing a great job of staying just ahead as Mason secures that double kill. Can he pick up the triple? No, is going to be taken down by JP.
T1 taking, again, that last 10 seconds or so. This hill generally being pretty even in terms of who got the control for it, so neither team making a huge gain for themselves, but with two players dead on the field at the spawn point of it, Exit are primed to get themselves into a pretty comfortable position on our new hill, which is just spawn. Good run from App, though. Sneaks right up onto Matty and knocks him out, and he's got the back flank against multiple other members of this Exit roster, so he's going to be able to jump on top of them. His teammates already supporting from the jump-off point down below. They'll hop onto this one, steal that control right away from Exit and start to bleed back this lead a bit more into their own favor. Exit, of course, did get that first 10 or 15 seconds off it, which for them is more than likely enough for now, especially if they can steal away the later part of this hill, too.
Yeah, we'll have to see what type of push Exit tries to make here as it starts off strong with 3 down now. Make that 4 for T1. So while it was a great retake of that hill, a great hold, Exit manages to come out on top in the final 20 seconds to extend that lead. I think Exit just doing a much better job of staying alive. We see, you know, this is more a story of deaths, kind of T1 throwing away their lives a bit more, as Exit does a good job of just maintaining their life, keeping that pressure on the map, which can be so vital in these objective game modes.
Staying on top of the teeter-totter as they try to stay on top of these respawn routes as well for the power weapons. Just saw both of them come up as of a few seconds ago. I believe both were claimed by T1. Shotgun for sure, and we can see as well the rails being taken by JP. So T1 winning that battle once again is going to allow for them to have a lot of control over the hill here. More than likely can close the gap that sits between them as well as the Exit roster. As Exit are just not able to get on that quickly enough for their own devices. They fall off of it. A missed shot, though, is going to cost JP his own life, as well as that final shot to come out from the railgun. Luck, in fact, immediately uses it to turn it back around onto App, takes him down. Hypnos, as well as Jalen, the last two players on hill, have now fallen. App on respawn is going to try to get the better of Luck, but won't be able to do so. So that's hill control should be back into the hands of Exit for this last 10 seconds.
Ooh, nice little portal play from Luck there to stay alive despite being full red. Finally going to get taken down by JP, but this gives, at least for the time being, Exit some positional advantage, but not control of that hill.
Mason there being able to find out the position of JP, isolates him. The hill constantly going back and forth over these past few seconds. You can see App waiting for an opportunity to jump in, but Huff sneaks in just a measly little AR shot to finish him off. So a bit unfortunate there as they were looking for a good re-engagement. Not going to be able to get it. Shotgun, though, now in the hands of Huff. He's able to push forward, bully out the position of Hypnos from inside of the side tower. More than likely do the same thing in just a moment versus App here. Indeed, will knock him out. Has already got a route to knock another player, but he wants to fight this one directly from the hill point. So instead, will reroute his portals over to try and find Jalen. There we go. There's the engagement, but not able to get the full kill, and even worse, he gets jumped on by a second member of the squad, so he'll go down there. Another member of his team also falling. Mason and Luck, though, going to turn this back around here before too much control is gained by the T1 roster, as XSET again take the large majority of our 3-minute hill here and sit just under 15 seconds away from claiming victory now.
Yeah, Mason already dropping the 40 bomb at the 2-minute warning is impressive in its own right. You combine that with the coordination that XSET has been displaying here in this first map. T1 constantly being 3 down. Izzy finishes up the 4th, tries to contest this one, and XSET gonna close out map number 1 strong.
Indeed. Very convincing fashion here, especially as of the last minute or two of play. Those final 2 hills didn't really see T1 able to properly contest against that. And that's despite having power up and control too. Same problem that we were seeing out of LG. They had no problem getting it, but then being able to route it through the full usage process without dropping it and handing it over. That was where things got a little bit more desperate for T1. So at about double the score line, XSET takes it at 250 to 123.
Yeah, really strong showing here. T1 just struggling off the rip, but again, they're one of those teams I think that at least in seasons past, they can have a traditional slow start. They can be pretty dominant once they heat up, but sometimes it takes them a little while to get there, and then the stronger a team starts against them, it typically, you know, they have to make those adjustments, and mid-series, it takes them a little bit more time. I know some of these teams we've seen make the adjustments mid-map, but T1 seems to be a between-map adjustment team, so we'll have to see how they bounce back in TDM on Carmen Station.
XSET definitely ahead of things, even in the fragging department, as you probably noticed by that scoreboard. The kind of average among most players there was sitting at about 5 or 6 more than we were seeing out of what T1 was bringing to the table. So that will become a potential issue coming into our next matchup here on to Carmen. The good news is Carmen's a very different map. You have a lot more separation, a lot more capabilities, especially considering there's not going to be one focal, objective these teams have to fight for. They've got a much greater capability to stop the fight, back up, potentially reset it, and then go from square one, essentially.
If I'm T1, though, I might be regretting my decision of Carmen Station after looking at the slays coming out from XSET. I'm going, oh god, we have to fight them in 1v1s. They outslayed us there, but maybe T1 has the adjustments. We will have to see. Off to a decent start here in the TDM, getting 4 down for XSET and giving them brief control of the map.
Yeah, certainly having the timing to get themselves shotgun control, which is the go-to weapon that both teams want to be able to get off of the initial spawn here on this map. So that will initially be taken up by T1. It's going to stay that way as well. App and Jalen chasing down another member of this squad. Already a much different start to things here, as at the moment it's T1 domination, 8-2 at the beginning of the map. Luck able to win out the fight there versus Jalen, but quickly put down again by Hypnos, as the trades are strong and on point to prevent the lead from growing any further into the favor of XSET here. T1 as well, just locking down these spawns left and right, and excellently done. Already a 9-kill lead and 12 overall kills on the board. Let's make it 13 as Hypnos gets another very nice headshot off with the sniper.
If you're T1, this is the start you wanted here on map number 2. The bounce back in full effect. T1 starting to heat up is a scary team. So XSET, having to do a lot of work to catch up here as T1 continues to apply this pressure, but Mason looking for the picks, hoping that his teammates will clean things up, but kind of a back and forth now, but T1 getting that really strong start, giving them this lead that they need and the cushion that they need.
You can see how portal heavy this map is just because of what we were seeing from Mason there a second ago, just trying to hunt down 2 to 3 players while he was holding on to the sniper's nest up in the middle of the map. It just couldn't lock down a single player. Every time he shot at someone, they would jump in their portal and make it disappear. So unfortunately not so easy to establish that overwatch and just lock down players without access to an insta-kill weapon. Either way, T1's lead has stagnated a little bit as XSET start to pick up a few kills on their own, but a plus 10 advantage is definitely something that a team can feel confident about. Just going to need to make sure they keep it there. As we just saw with that last spree of kills from XSET, they can just as easily come back into this one. JP trying to shut down some of the reroutes is only going to be able to get one going for himself, as Mason as well as Huff trade that back into XSET's own favor and now sit approximately 7 kills or so behind what T1 have built up.
Yeah, I think XSET's doing a good job here, even though the score doesn't reflect it just yet. They're trying to keep T1 at bay, keep them in some of those spawn rotations to where they have to fight, 3v2, as we see 3 down now for T1. Jalen Man's fighting to stay alive, so XSET doing a great job of just patiently working their way back into this one as their lead has been cut down to 5.
Seems like very careful fight selection coming out more than anything right now from Xset. Just very, very choosy with their targets here to make sure they don't over-engage in any situation where another member of T1 can then make this happen. Chase them down, as we see with Huff getting followed through back over to Xset's kind of home territory and be able to take them down and then domino effect that into a few more kills. T1 did just successfully pull it off. Good news is they're not necessarily running away with it. Maddie as well going to try to sneak in as we've got the shotgun being respawned. This was a large part of how T1 was able to run away with the advantage at the beginning, and now shotgun freshly spawned. App's going to be able to deny the pickup from Maddie here. At the same time, though, not going to be able to necessarily get away with it either. He has picked it up for himself. Looks like he managed to get himself over towards a safer pasture as well, despite what I said. Oh, never mind. He's going to get sniped out here very quickly, and that means as well a shotgun will change hands over towards Xset, and they can start using this for their own devices.
Yeah, here we see 3 down again from T1, 4, but Hypnos just spawns in, so he's going to be the lone member of T1 on the map until his teammates spawn back in. So Xset now just down 3, so really good map awareness too coming through here from Xset, knowing what fights to take and when to push. Here's a little bit of a long-range shotgun. Huff going to look to reposition with some of these portals, but Xset, yeah, here is that fight selection, and Huff finds a perfect drop down. Time to use that shotgun, and they're slowly working their way back into this one, but T1, I mean, on the same hand, doing a great job of maintaining this lead despite Xset really fighting back.
Huff jumping into that fight maybe a bit too early, and he got a second or two later. Probably would have been 2 to 3 players out in the open with that momentum boost too, and could have definitely surprised the members of T1. They'll still be surprised by it, but to a manageable degree as it goes down 1-1 at the end of the day. T1 as well trying to leash their lead at this point, it seems, all the way up to the 60-point limit, and may very well be able to do so. At the same time, though, Xset is very quickly finding their own way to fight back into this game, potentially steal the lead away. Just 3 now, 2 kills behind the overall total from T1 here at 41-43.
Yeah, I really like the way Xset is just working together. You see T1 just constantly having players down, and really Xset capitalizing on that with the positions they take afterwards. So despite T1 staying just a little bit ahead, I think Xset has made the adjustments they need to. They're just waiting for that moment where kind of the wave crests in their favor and they're able to come back, and T1 just trying to stay that one step ahead as they near that 60 kill mark.
T1 really trying to hop into portals consistently here, like you were saying, to be able to stay ahead of the rotations from Xset, not get outrun by them, and more importantly, allow themselves to get the 60 marker before Xset can finally close the gap. A little bit of a destabilization point reached there in the last 2 minutes or so, with T1 being able to run up to 50 plus here, but Xset starting to restore their own balance now, trying to get themselves back into it. They need to avoid these 1-for-1s, though. This is how T1 pushes themselves toward the eventual endpoint, just by trading this lead back and forth, keeping it locked at a +5, and not allowing for free kills to come out from Xset. Xset's been very good at sneaking them in, however, so it's going to be somewhat difficult to avoid. There we go, though, capitalizing on the mistakes. Hypnos' kill versus Huff is a very big deal here, as T1 inches up on 57 now, as they get 2 more kills, just 3 more to go, and map number 2 will go into their pocket.
Yeah, T1 just adjusting perfectly, doing what they need to do, just trade 1-for-1, trade things out, because Xset knows they need to get impatient to win, but T1 able to take that to their advantage and clutch up in the TDM to tie the series up at once.
Yeah, pretty much exactly what we were saying too in the pregame there. This is a map that teams can kind of pace themselves a little bit better inside of TDM. T1 really running away with it at the beginning, but Xset able to take a step back, restabilize things, look for ways to flank out the T1 setup, and it works out well. They get back into it. They get within just a couple kills. I think it was only 2 away from tying it up some point in the 40s there, but then at the same time, T1 does very much the same thing. They take a step back. They go for their own little mini reset. They start to route around and flank against the Xset setup and run another gauntlet for themselves to take right around 10 kill advantage again, that they then are able to leash up to 60.
Yeah, I think T1 definitely just doing a good job overall, looking at the kind of high level overview of the Splitgate Pro Series standings is bouncing back and making adjustments on a large scale, because looking at their even KDAs and average objective, they fell behind some of these top teams like Space Station and Xset, but right now right here they're kind of shoring up that difference and starting to claw their way back into this one. So while some of those stats that we looked at earlier in that head-to-head matchup heavily favored Xset, I think T1 has put in the work to make those adjustments to where those aren't really telling the full story.
And the good news now for XSET is the fact they don't have to necessarily worry about being outwitted on these TDM game modes, at least for the rest of this series, as 3 out of 5 are obviously played via an objective. And with Domination coming up next, they've got a really great capability on Lava Well as well here to destabilize what T1 found in the last game, kind of being able to center everything on that one focal point and force them into a winning position. Not going to be able to do that so easily here, as we can see consistently members of XSET going riding around for back caps, and that's going to force a bit of a focus split consistently for T1.
Yeah, I think though XSET does have that, you know, mid-game adjustment advantage. They're able to make those micro adjustments within the scope of the game, given its game state, to kind of come up with wins when they need to. We saw that clutch factor with the 2 overtime King of the Hills in match day number 1, so they kind of have that X factor in their back pocket to rely on if need be, but 2 rockets going wide for Maddie is going to be a tough break in the slaying department for XSET, but they do manage to capture 2 hills.
Yeah, Maddie trying to risk it there and go for a direct contact on the rocket will not work out. Does still leave 1 in the chamber, which another member of XSET will be able to pick back up, thankfully. So still able to use it, but only for 1 kill on that power weapon run. And now we can see as well the bat being picked up quickly by App. He's already run for 2 just on that. There's a 3rd being found. App making up the real difference here with the power weapon in play, as he gets the bat and is able to find way more prowess than we saw from the rockets being picked up by X, and immediately a double kill is translated, or rather a double cap I should say, is translated off of that. And in a few seconds here we're going to see T1 take the lead in direct result of that nice play from App.
Yeah, really love the adjustments made from T1 here. I mean, throughout the series so far, doing exactly what they need to work their way back into this one, focusing on power weapon control, and now again, XSET being on that back foot, they are the team that needs to find the answers in this series.
Up as well, attempting to fend off a back flank against him. Won't work out as Hypnos is able to get the better of him. T1 still able to collectively control the double cap, though, while all this chaos has been going on. You can see XSET really trying to force themselves over on towards that C point, but it's not going to work out too well for them. A has been now stolen away also, so not even a home point being captured anymore for XSET. T1 very much in control of things, but they do spread themselves a bit too far, losing their B point. However, able to keep the 2 side points and keeping B in contestation here is going to waste a bit more time now, as XSET's able to take that away, and they'll try to negotiate it over towards the A point, it looks like, but having trouble getting that control, only evenly trading out versus T1 in the midst of this fight. Finally able to force them away from it, and in a second here, get the decap going, but that was still a solid 20 seconds or so of T1 having the double cap, and now they've lost what they worked so hard to gain here, their B point.
Yeah, and XSET, just looking at the stats, that slaying power might make up the difference, but for the time being, T1 just kind of playing the strategic aspect of the objective game types better to hold on to this lead with the 2 caps. So despite all that slaying power coming through from XSET, T1 just staying alive and making better decisions is giving them this 100-point lead that we see.
Huff continuing to remain a very confusing force on the inside of C2. I think he actually is able to completely just out-rotate the members of T1 there, get himself on for the full-on cap to steal it away, but that's already being rectified by T1. They've recapped C for themselves, still holding a consistent cap on B as they've had for about a minute or 2 now as well, so things are continuing to look good for the T1 roster. B again stolen away, but T1 reads into the fact that's probably going to be the go-to strategy for XSET. They pretty much immediately backcapped XSET's own home point, so they're getting away with nothing right now.
Yeah, T1 just, again, continuing to be 1 step ahead in these rotations towards the hill. So XSET briefly having the 2 cap already decapped on that B site. So despite, again, all of these kills coming through for XSET, T1 remains ahead. But here we see XSET potentially being able to mount this comeback with now power weapon and hill control.
Yeah, Luckhut just gifted a set of rockets right there. I saw rockets getting shot out. Maybe there was a portal or something behind him that ended up going through that. Either way, it didn't implode in his face, and that's what Luck cares about in this specific situation. Now able to negotiate 1 more kill. Can't get the second one out, though, as there's too fast of a response from JP, so he steals those rockets right back. Still should be, I believe, 2 shots remaining in it, on top of course, having the sniper to play with here, too. 2 cap resume for the members of T1. Nice escape being made into that portal, though. Prevents destruction from the rockets, but still will get taken down when he attempts to refrag into it a moment later. Now with the bat in hand, he's going to sneak right back onto B, tries to chase down the kill the player on the B point, but unfortunately that player runs away, gets themselves out of dodge, and is not going to be bested by the bat here, it seems, either. JP does get one with the bat, but it's at the cost of his own life as he has to hop back onto A and kind of destabilize this hold from Maddie, which will work out, though. As you can see, App's going to run up for it, confirm the triple cap again here for T1, and while C is at least attempting to be stolen away, App is so on point here, immediately rotates over towards C and denies that with the bat.
Yeah, huge objective time coming through from App, giving T1 a nice cushion again, still behind in the slaying department, but this game of cat and mouse between Xset and T1 sees T1 coming ahead with the triple cap for but a moment, but still maintaining a 2-hill lead.
Xset are just not able to keep up with the rotationary power of T1 at this point here. Stuff like this where App is just literally behind a player as they jump out of Portal is showing how much further ahead in the rotation game is T1 is right now. Xset need to try and reset this, lock T1 in a singular position and force them to be put on the back foot. They have just not been able to accomplish that throughout most of this game. They've been able to kind of chase them a little bit with these center caps they begin every once in a while, but they haven't led to a whole lot because their home point is not going to contest at the same time, so that usually that just leads to a member of T1 hopping out into the hallway, taking a portal, and doing this, stealing away the very same point that Xset had to abandon to get B.
So this is huge for Xset. They just had back-to-back 4 downs on T1, which has given them this triple cap advantage. So this is a great opportunity for Xset to potentially flip this one if they can keep T1 on these spawn rotations. So they need to keep finding slays, and they're doing just that. Maddie going huge, finding the double kill, almost gets the triple. His teammate is going to clean it up. So now it's almost 3 lives for T1, have had multiple teammates down, and Xset maintains control of this map.
Excellently done here so far by Xset, keeping themselves in control of a triple cap for a very considerable amount of time to start inching back this lead into their own control. T1 is ahead, but is not at an unwinnable point just yet, only at 500. Approximately 2/3 of the way there here, though. And now with the 2-cap resumed, Xset at the beginning worried a little bit. They made some advances to get them about 150 points behind T1, but at the same time, now they've lost their edge yet again, and more than likely just going to go back into a situation where T1 have consistent control of the 2 outer points here if Xset's going to focalize on their B point. However, as you can see here, Maddie's been able to fend off the struggle on A, prevents the cap from coming in from T1 outright, so they are still running it back. They are still in this fight and still looking to complete this comeback to get them into the game here. Aggressive push coming in from JP, though. May very well fend off the rest of the defenses on our A point, but it won't mean, however, that T1 can take it for themselves as everyone goes down, including the attackers there.
Yeah, and this being map number 3 means Xset did select this map. So maybe they didn't know how strong T1's rotations were going into Lava Well Dom, but they certainly know now.
I'm expecting this much pressure to be thrown against them too. T1 just kind of refusing to take their feet off the gas pedal up until about 2 minutes ago here when they finally were reset and forced into a trip cap. That was a major change point though, as Xset have really been able to take a much more contention inside of this matchup since then and have a much greater capability to read into the plays from T1, which they were really struggling with at an earlier point inside of this map here. T1 back into a 2-cap. Can they keep it though, as it is A and C, so the outskirts of the map being taken by them. A lot of kills going in their favor, only leaving Maddie alive on the field here. Now B being stolen away. Also, very viable triple cap coming up for T1 with less than 100 points to go. This is exactly what Xset needed to avoid.
Yeah, T1 just doing a great job on those rotations again, just playing the map so perfectly. Despite the multiple times where all 4 dead have been the case for T1, they are bouncing back with that objective control, with better movement around the map. But Xset with the triple cap here, we've seen them hold this for a decent amount of time, and you know, it ain't over till the fat lady sings, and T1, nobody's singing any notes just yet. So we'll have to see if Xset can maintain this hold. The bat swing from Huff, gonna miss. Hypnos gonna take him down, and T1 now back to earning some points. Yeah,
unfortunately having to stretch himself very thin there. As you can see him constantly portaling between A and C, as there's easy routes to do so on this map, but that has become T1's own benefit. They pick up the bat and do very much the same thing we were just seeing out from Xset, running those 2 outer points, keeping the center point more importantly in contention than anything. I don't think it's a priority for them, but now that it is open for the taking, they might as well here, as there's another 1-for-1 on that point with another member of T1 remaining. They should be able to lock in the cap unless additional reinforcements came in from Xset. They did, but a little bit too late. So T1 will lock in that cap only for a few seconds. Of course, it looks like we're already going to see a decap by Xset, but now how will Xset continue to push it forward from here? Again, A and C has been lost, and with just a few seconds to go, it looks like T1 had the much better game plan here for Lava Well, so they take the 3rd map and are the first as well to get themselves up on a match point.
Yeah, a tough break for Xset in, I mean, we'll look at the stats in a minute, but I think 50 kills for Luck and still losing that. So all the slaying in the world doesn't really beat the coordination and map traversal coming out of T1 there. So very well played by T1.
T1 just a lot better, I think, at taking and winning those fights on the 2 outskirt points, and then being able to constantly rotate between them helped out their case as well. And really no one from Exit able to run consistent enough interference between the A and C points, so as soon as one fight ended, everybody would hop in those portals next to the doorway that leads into either hill and just immediately overwhelm any force that may have been remaining on the other point. It was just great control being exercised from T1, was also great at realizing that, like, okay, A or C has been lost, more than likely means that there's not enough of a defense on B, let's go for that instead. And they were just constantly keeping Exit on their toes, chasing their own tail, it seemed.
Yeah, super good job by T1, and we're going to be going to King of the Hill on Impact, which is a map they picked through that pick and ban process, so potentially T1 being able to close out the series here if they are as strong on this map as they think.
Big issue is going to be, once again, only that singular objective to focus on, so won't be able to rely on the trickery they were using on the last map of just constantly out-rotating the members of Exit here. Not necessarily going to be able to pull it off, although they can do something close to that once hill control is gained. They'll need to get it first, however, and that's been an area where we've seen T1 struggle slightly so far in this series. So now we have to find out if our 4th map can potentially change up that fate as Exit get themselves off to a good start here, but are not going to be able to keep consistent control over the hill. They back away from it, however, Huff comes back in with a boom here, knocks off the head of JP, finishes him off rather, and is now going to open up room for more teammates to try and hop on the point.
And just to kind of throw it back to, again, match day number 1, this is a map where we saw Huff go huge, clutch up, and get Exit the overtime victory. So Exit definitely proven to be strong on this map. We'll just have to see if T1 can manage to be stronger here today.
Matty looking for a good place to be able to use his power weapons. He'll find one with the sniper, but unfortunately will be smited before he can line up a proper play with the bats. Huff, of course, seeing the blinking portal, knows that there's going to be an enemy waiting nearby on the other side. He also wants the bat, is able to run it for himself, but now has to run away as he's brought that at 10 HP, trying to run in and pick that up. Gets it for himself, has the portal route lined up, needs to get through the rest of the bat animation as he swings it out, though, so only manages to get one kill. That JP will now trade out and add one more behind here as T1 tries to get some serious hill time going for themselves.
Yeah, we'll have to see if T1 can mount this comeback, but again, it is Exit just keeping T1 on these spawn rotations that T1 really in these single objective game types really can't find their footing. This is where that slaying power of Exit kind of translates into that hill time where T1 can't just rely on out-rotating and out-thinking them. They really have to match them in that slaying department.
While continuing to sit back and wait for a potential challenge to come his way. Here, Exit with pretty consistent control over the hill right now because all of his teammates are off of it, making sure that any rotates from T1 are being swiftly denied. This is what I was talking about previously when we started this map, and the fact that we're not on domination anymore. T1 doesn't have as much freedom to try and split up the Exit roster. It's much more direct play. Speaking of direct play, we've got Luck rolling in and rolling right out again with the bat. Just wanted the 1-kill pickup here real quick to destabilize the hold on the inside. Seems to actually have not worked all that well, as other members of Exit haven't been able to find their initiation just yet. That's changing now as they've been able to bully their way forward and knock out everybody except Ath.
I really like Luck's playstyle currently, only because it shows how powerful just holding those positions in Splitgate can be. You don't have to necessarily over-rotate with those portals, depending on hill location and your teammates. There's Luck finally going down, but a really nice push there from Exit. T1 does maintain control of this hill currently with 20 seconds remaining. We'll see if Exit tries to make a push or just rotates out towards that next hill.
Matty a little bit too low to jump himself into the fight, but still manages to get some good damage going onto a few members of T1 here, just trying to destabilize them a little bit, while his teammates wind up the confidence to jump in themselves, and even away from that too, still with a pretty healthy lead to build up. Oh, I don't need to be too concerned with stealing his hill control away just yet, as they're focused on this one here. This is where they can bank in some serious points. They're able to keep the control locked in consistently, and it's looking like so far they've been able to accomplish that. Bats ready to be picked up right in the middle of the room as well, so they'll wait for a teammate to spawn and indeed go directly for that here. Despite that, however, the members of T1 have been able to work their way in at an even trade, ultimately, which means Exit have a good capability to fight back in this as they respawn as well here. App, though, will be waiting for them as he now has the bat that we just saw pick up the double kill.
Yeah, a really nice flip from T1 there. Exit getting a little bit aggressive, trying to make a push on this hill, watching Matty take down, I believe it was JP there, but this hill exchanging hands. T1 was in a really great position to rack up more kill time, but another great contest coming through from Exit.
Huff trying to win out this fight here versus Jalen, and will be able to do so. That should lock in the last 10 seconds of control here, meaning about a 50-second lead over what T1 have built up so far. Confident run so in this map from Xset. They're going to need to keep it that way as we now move to our next hill. And again, with Xset pretty much ready for it. They've got 3 players stacked on top of it. Nice portal transition there for Luck. Had to kind of surf around a bit to avoid the T1 players, but managed to get there without a scratch on his back. And now T1 has to look for a way to initiate into it. This is going to be the same hill where we saw members of T1 struggling earlier on in the matchup with trying to actually get even close to it, let alone being able to attack the players currently defending it. You can see Xset cutting off Jalen so quickly there as he tries to fly in over it. Hypnos, though, changing up the fate a little bit, but with the sniper in hand, Huff able to stem the tide, keep things a bit more even. The hill does go into the hands of T1, but I believe we'll see a bit of fight thrown in from Xset as they start to respawn.
Yeah, Huff is so scary, especially considering the plays he's able to make when his back is up against the wall. Even taking down a few players from T1 there on that push, slowed that push enough to stop a potentially big point gain for T1, but now they're just going to be able to pick up the final 5 seconds of that hill before it rotates out.
So out some weapons real quick as a few members of X ended up stacking on top of each other. That does set them up for a bit of a shuffle there, though, as you can see a full wipe nearly of the entirety of the Xset roster, and indeed it is confirmed Luck is going to be staggered by a few extra seconds here, so they'll also be at 3 until they're able to get him back into it. More than likely means that Xset are going to hold back, wait this out, giving T1 a lot of free control, putting them only about 20 or so seconds behind the overall Xset total here. T1 once again refusing to give up, wanting to fight to the bitter end of this matchup here to end this series now instead of taking it to a TDM.
I really like the respect T1 is demanding from Xset right now. You know, looking at the difference of how this King of the Hill played out in game number 1 versus game number 4 now. Xset being forced to slow down. So I like that out of T1, but Xset continues to slay. Here's a play, though, coming through from App on that killing spree, trying to force Xset out of this hill right before it rotates. Good push, but ultimately T1's still going to be behind by just a bit.
Yeah, about 15 seconds or so short of being able to take it outright. Big difference is you can see members of T1 already on point for the next hill. They abandoned ship for the previous one and are going to focus on getting the points they need to really take the lead away. However, Huff as well, with the sniper still in hand, has plans of his own, and he's going to be able to execute them. Moving with Mace, and they steal away that control from T1 just when they were literally a second away from tying it up versus Xset as well. So a heartbreaking moment here from T1, as they now more than likely are going to have to wait for the next hill or the next power weapon spawn to make the big play that they need to get back in charge of this game.
Yeah, and when you have a player, again, on your team like Huff, who is so proficient with that sniper, it is one of the power weapons that offers you the most one-hit kills, and when someone can use it that effectively, it's a force to be reckoned with. So well played there from Huff, but again, T1 on a nice little bounce back, trying to close this one out. I like trying to get the scrap time of the hill just to keep this one close so they can start to mount that comeback.
Yeah, they know they're so close here, right, as well, but they know they have 3 hills left, so every inch is going to equate to a mile in this late game situation, especially considering the T1 already sit on match point here. Huff going to be found out, but JP just can't line up the shot, so he ends up getting beaten out by him in that engagement. Luck with a great engagement himself, but he's also found out on a trade here. Huff trying to get sneaky. He's got to be careful, otherwise will end up getting null-timed out, but does find his way over the top, sneaks himself back into control of the bat, still with 100% charge on it also, and with Xset having so much control over the hill here, it seems like they're going to go back into a comfortable lead for the next few moments here, especially with that bat having Overwatch for the only real flank that can be set up against them.
Yeah, and T1 even had a lead for a few seconds briefly, but Xset, again, great on the response, able to get control of this hill and really hold this one for a significant amount of time, giving them a decent little lead. And here comes T1 trying to get this scrap time in before the rotation, and we're looking at the final 2 hills here, and also I believe the sniper should be up around that 2-minute mark, followed by the other power weapons around 1. So a potential big swing for T1 if they can manage to secure those, but right now the bat in the hands of Huff is a force to be reckoned with on this hill.
Not going to be able to do much with it, though, as he is eventually beaten out by Hypnos. He now claims it for himself. JP with the sniper also, so all the power weapons falling into the hands of T1 as they fall down below. And once again, just 5 seconds from now, we'll be able to steal the lead away from Xset. Clean kills against Xset 2. As of a second ago, we had 3 players dead on the field, everybody except for Maddie knocked out. They're all going to be coming back up over the next few moments here, but it doesn't matter. T1 have taken control of things. The big test for T1 now, especially because they still have back control, is going to mean, do they have appropriate positioning to make the rotation over towards the last hill at the 1 minute marker, or do they get beaten out there by Xset and see them take the lead away again? They're going to work on that, though. As you can see, Hypnos catches a player riding around the corner, trying to catch the rotates off of this point, and is going to prevent that from happening by getting the kill.
Yeah, 2 down briefly for Xset, but they will be spawned in time for that hill rotation. T1 with the 30-ish seconds lead. We'll have to see. This is a very big hill. Hypnos thankfully has the bat. Getting shot in the back, though, trying to rotate through and swing. Now Xset needs to break this hill. Looks like they are in it, so T1 on the response. We'll have to see what they have for us. Big kills out of Hypnos, but still no hill control for T1.
Yeah, both teams, and mainly T1 here, trying to prioritize kills over anything so they can stop Xset from having the confidence to actually get themselves on and start bleeding back the score. Keep in mind as well here, they're going to get a few more seconds up onto the board. Xset needs to run it into overtime now to be able to win it for themselves, as there's not enough time left in the default timer for them to bring it back over towards a 2:37, I don't believe. We'll see, though, as once again, coming down to those final 20 seconds, they're going to need to fend off this push coming in. T1 wanted to wipe them off the board, but it's not going to work. They're able to stem the tide, it seems. T1 are not able to... Oh, there we go! JP with the big kill right there that got them off the point. Xset need to have someone on it when we hit 0 timer. Otherwise, the series goes to T1, and it might anyway here as we're coming down to the final seconds of play. No one from Xset in the area. They will not be able to trigger overtime, and T1 will win the series at a 3-1 scoreline.
Kind of a nail-biter for T1 there, especially given all the factors like within that game. So to contextualize it a bit, T1 got outslayed for that entire series.
You can even see it here in a little bit too for a lot of this game for some of their players.
Yeah, absolutely. The only time they didn't get outslayed was in the TDM, thankfully. So they managed to pick up that one and then relied on that teamwork and that objective play to close out these series. So what that kind of tells me is that T1 has made the adjustments that they needed to, that we saw on the first day, because Space Station kept the pressure on them, outslayed them, and outworked them, but T1 has found a way to fight through being outslayed and still win the objective game mode, so that's very promising for them as a team.
And once again, even inside of just this last map being played itself, they were getting outwitted, they were getting out-rotated once more by the members of Xset. They were able to find a way to get past that, take some of their own control, work past the power weapon disadvantage they seem to be going up against quite often there too, as Xset seem to be pretty on point with those this map, and ultimately not allowing enough presence to come on there for the members of Xset to negotiate control over a second map for themselves, which means, as you can see here on the screen now, T1 locking in for the series today at 3-1 in their own favor.
Yeah, what's super interesting is I'm excited to see the standings at the end of today, because I think we only have 2 teams now at 3-0. Potentially Xset could have been, but T1 taking that one ties their records up at 2-1 apiece. So gonna have to see where the leaderboard stands. I believe E United should still be at the top, but LG taking them to a Game 5 has made that #1 spot a little bit more brittle in terms of just map win percentage. But looking at this again, Xset great in the slaying department throughout the entire series. Outslaying T1, only time they didn't was in the team deathmatch, so well played to T1 here. I think they've really found their footing within the SPS, especially after day 1, like we said, kind of looking shaky against Space Station, almost looking a little rattled, like they were getting outplayed, but Xset having a similar style to Space Station, very slaying heavy, very pressure heavy. For T1 to find the win here, I think is a great sign for them as a team.
Xset as well, potential mistake in choosing to go over towards Lava Well for domination, as unfortunately it didn't really seem like they had the winning strategy to face off against T1 on that one. T1's strat of just running the 2 outer points and relying on those whenever there was an attempt to steal away their midpoint, that worked flawlessly. That was by far, at least in my opinion, the most one-sided map we had in that series.
Yeah, for sure. But great final series to end on. But let's end on a giveaway for all you guys tuned in. So again, we have our second Astro Prize Pack giveaway. To enter for a chance to win this one, all you need to do is head on over to splitgateproseries.com/rewards, and you can enter for a chance to win. Now, this is, I think, what I was waiting for, the standings. Let's see where, after match day 3, everything has shaken out, and we have, I mean, the tie now at 75% for 1 and 2. I'm not sure the exact ruling on how that works, if they're like who's in #1, but essentially they are tied for first now, E United and Space Station. I think if I'm Space Station, I'm sending a thank you card to Luminosity for taking E United to the Game 5, because that has opened up the window for Space Station to find themselves on top. And then we have 3 teams at 2-1 and 3 teams at 0-3. The big things for me are Luminosity and Pioneers. I would not describe as 0-3 teams. They have looked very solid, respectively, against some of the other teams at both 2-1 and even 3-0. Luminosity, I believe, taking 2 series to Game 5s, both against Space Station and E United. So your number 1 teams, Luminosity has taken them to a Game 5 and could have easily won those series. So while it's match day 3, while we're nearing the halfway point of the Splitgate Pro Series summer season, regular season, before we get into those grand finals, still kind of up in the air. Still plenty of room for some of these teams to come back and work their way up the standings.
And even their first game, right, to go back to Luminosity for a second, it was 0-3, yeah, but 2 of those games were overtime wins by a single point as well. So very, very unfortunate run of it so far for Luminosity. The thing is, though, is they are going to need to start stepping it up here. Is that map win percentage, it matters to a huge degree. Even if they manage to rebound the remaining games they have and end up 4-3, if they still end up with like a 40 to 50% map win ratio, that's going to hurt their capability to stay inside of the top here.
Yeah, that's what always is kind of the curse of a team with potential, right? Is you can't have potential for too long before you don't have it anymore, right? Like they have
just becomes
the potential,
impossible
right?
after so long statistically.
They have the potential right now, but they need to execute on it. They need to kind of crest that hill, get over the top, and start closing out some of these Game 5s that they're so notorious for. But in terms of match day 3 of the competition, it's only heating up. We have a surprise in that E United 3-0 at the top. Space Station, again, looking very strong. They finished 3rd in the standings in the previous season, finished 2nd in that grand finals tournament, and T1 kind of bouncing back and working their way back up. So very, very big results. I think a big shakeup in match day 3. I'm excited to get to match day 4, but unfortunately, you're going to have to wait until next weekend to see that. But I think, Blue, any closing thoughts before we kind of send it home here for the day?
No, I think it's been a great day of matches, once again showing us that it's not just like 1 or 2 teams leading at the top anymore. We've got a very, very close league, and I'm very excited again to see how the next few weeks play out as we get closer and closer to the championship.
Yep, absolutely. So, guys, thank you again for tuning in here to the Splitgate Pro Series summer season, and we will see you guys next weekend. Peace.